Franklin County Commission is now in session for this regular scheduled meeting, Tuesday, March 19th. It's good to have you all here this morning. We have a pretty lengthy agenda today, so we'll go ahead and get to it. Commissioner Ward, can you lead some prayer and pledge, please?
Yes. Lord, we come to you today as we conduct our county business. We pray for everyone in the room. We pray for us. We pray that you will guide our minds, our hearts. We also pray for everyone in the community, Lord, that needs your touch or healing. We pray in your holy name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there anything that needs to be added to the agenda this morning?
Nothing that I know of, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. I will bring the board's attention to two time certain items. One is at 11, that we have a public hearing. That's on contractors or anyone doing work without the required permits. The other is at 5 o'clock. We have a public workshop scheduled for this afternoon, a presentation of the C Shire PUD. Otherwise, that's or no, nothing else that I know of.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the agenda as it's been published?
That may.
All right. We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Sanders,
Second.
second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Up next is approval of minutes and payment of county bills.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Amison,
Second.
second by Commissioner Croom. Any discussion, Commissioners? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Also unanimous. All right, now we have public comments.
Mr. Chairman, none received via the portal, and none handed in to me this morning before the start of the meeting.
Yeah, there was one here that somebody had, but they said that they noticed they were on the agenda, so.
Yes, Ms. Wilder, she asked
Yeah.
to be moved to the next agenda.
Oh, she's not gonna be on this agenda on the next?
Yeah, she don't want to be in this
Okay.
agenda. Yeah, they're not ready for today, so
Okay,
kind of sneaked up on them.
okay. All right. So, Ms. Maxwell, you're up next.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, Clerk Maxwell.
Good morning, Michelle Maxwell, Clerk of Court. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I'm attending a clerk's conference in Jacksonville. But I didn't want this week to go unnoticed, so I would like to read this proclamation into the record. Whereas the Florida Government Finance Officers Association is a professional association founded in 1937 and serves more than 3,300 professionals from state, county, and city governments, school districts, colleges, universities, special districts, and private firms. And whereas the FGFOA is dedicated to being your professional resource by providing opportunities through education, networking, leadership, and information. And whereas this Government Finance Professionals Week, sponsored by the FG.
Yes, good background, man.
A.J. Smith, Sheriff Franklin County, and I can't say enough about Ginger. Of course, I've known Ginger for many years before I became sheriff, and as with a lot of people, when somebody new takes over an office, like, oh my gosh, am I going to still be working here? I'm like, what, am I stupid? Don't answer that, please. But I'm like, why would I get rid of one of the best people in county government? And she's continued to just do an amazing job, the team that she works with, and I'm glad that this is a week that we recognize the CFOs and their team and just everybody that keeps our money flowing, because without the money, we can't provide the service that the citizens require. And all I can say is she is A+, and I wish I could, give her a lot more, but we do have a little something for her. And excuse me, I'll unwrap it here. And I hope she, doesn't get mad and hit me sometime, because I do come in, I do require a lot out of staff, and a lot of times I come in, I need this, this, and this. But anyway, don't have my glasses, but it says, Ginger Coulter, you're awesome. There you go. Anything you want to say?
Mr.
At a
Chairman.
loss for words, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Ginger, how many years have you served as Franklin County
This year, I
Sheriff?
believe, will be going on 24 years, I believe, 23 or 24.
So-
Long time. I've worked with a lot of you a long time.
So she can't go, at least as long as I'm here, she's got to stay. So I don't know if we can make a proclamation that she can't leave, she can't quit.
I'm not leaving.
Her sentence will not be commuted, okay?
There you
She's
go.
still serving time. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see any other constitutionals in the room.
No, I don't, but we'll thank them just the
Yeah,
same.
but they all have financial officers in each office that do a tremendous job. It's all done on behalf of the residents of Franklin County. It's there every day, and, you know, that's, the function of government is to do our best to be there when whatever function is needed. That's what they're.
I took pictures in the boiler room. The boiler room is really the main issue at this time. The pumps that's circulating in there, now I did get the pumps replaced in there, so we don't have any problems with the pumps anymore. But I guess the pressure from the pumps and all over time, because the jail is 35+ years old at this point. And I've had, actually Franklin King came over and done the pipes last time, and he said if we don't do something soon, we're gonna have a major problem on our hands there. So the quotes that I gave you, the one from Keith Lawson is the best quote, and it comes in just under 25,000. And I asked all three companies to give us a quote on the CPVC Schedule 80 pipe, and as you look on the last page, the system service and engineering actually went back with copper, which I didn't ask him to do that. But he was way out of, I mean, he's like $69,000 to have him replaced, so. I guess what I'm asking y'all is I guess to go with the Keith Lawson at the 24,000.
Is he doing the same scope of work?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you actually have three quotes, one's around 25,000, the other was 52, and the other was 69.
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
But they're all three for the same amount of work.
The same job. It
Okay.
just,
And is the one that's around 25, is it the one with PVC?
CPVC,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
sir. That's what was recommended to me to go back with.
Yeah.
It would last longer than the copper lines, and of course, copper is more expensive anyway.
Yeah.
And, but what I've been told, like I said, Franklin looked at everything for me, and what he says is the copper is thin where the actual bends are, and they're just deteriorating and falling apart.
Yeah.
And this just started happening here recently, and as you see, I put Band-Aids on everything, but he said they're not gonna hold up. If we don't do something now, we really need to get on it.
All right, and would this be out of capital outlay, or where is it?
Actually, each year we budget $100,000 in the jail for extraordinary repair and maintenance
Okay.
line items, so.
Okay,
That's what I was gonna
Yeah.
ask.
okay. So what is the exact amount of the lowest quote?
Well, I figured it up because, like I said, I done had the pumps fixed. 23,969 is the number that I came up with
Okay,
on that Keith Lawson.
And
okay.
that amount does conform to our county bid policy because we would actually be paying the vendor directly.
Yep.
And, you know, if an order is actually less than $25,000, so long as they secure 3 written quotes.
Right, which we
So,
have.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so what's the pleasure of the board?
Also move to approve this repair, using the jail budget.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Croom. We are approving going with the lowest quote. We have 3. It is under our bid policy, therefore we can move forward by a motion and vote of the board to approve this expenditure coming from jail funds that's set aside for that. Anything else before we vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you,
Thank
Commissioner.
you.
And actually, before Captain Barnes
Mr. Barnes.
gets away, I have a couple items on my report I would like to
Oh,
go ahead and
okay.
cover, Commissioners, if that's okay.
Sorry.
Let's see, I'm going to go to item number 3 on my report. In late January, the Sheriff's Department ordered an air quality evaluation test of the jail and administration building. The test concluded that there were trace amounts of mold and mildew in some of the air-conditioned ducts and components. The remediation protocol called for cleaning and scrubbing to be completed by a licensed mold remediation specialist and for the cleaning and repair and replacement of the damaged HVAC ductwork and coils. Franklin County has received an $8,274.24 estimate from ServPro of Bay County to perform the mold remediation services as outlined in the inspection report, and an estimate of $5,800 from Air It Cool to clean and remove mold from 3 10-ton evaporator coil packs and cabinets, full cleaning of 3 mini-split units, and removal and replacement of the moldy duct board from the return box of one of the 10-ton air handlers, and installation of new duct board for the return box of the main air handler at the jail. The ceiling air vents will be cleaned and repainted by the jail's maintenance department. So that's one thing that is still going to be your task.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So board action to approve the attached 2 quotes to complete the mold remediation protocol at the county jail and administration building to be paid by the board's jail repair budget line item.
And Mr. Chairman, this is to clarify, this is the same budget we just approved money out of, so I'll move to approve this.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Kern. Any discussion, Commissioners? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's a 5-0 vote. Ms. Aaron's, anything else?
Yep. One more item.
Okay.
Okay, next item is item number 4. The Sheriff's Department was recently approved to hire and equip 2 additional full-time deputies for patrol of busy tourism areas as part of the TDC's Public Safety Services budget category. As spring break is here already, the sheriff has been able to purchase the necessary equipment for those patrols. However, he has not had any success in filling the positions to be ready for the season. The sheriff has asked to amend his first-year request to allow for him to pay the off-duty detail rate to deputies during this busy spring and summer season to be able to provide adequate staffing and attention to areas struggling with increased numbers of visitors until he is able to get the positions in place. If payment of this off-duty detail rate works better for staffing flexibility and meets the need at peak times for tourism-related response, it may be permanent, but we can discuss that actually at budget time this year. So let's see, we have the vehicles purchased through the program for tourism response will have the TDC decal on the side, whereas the public can clearly identify the additional patrols being paid by TDC sales tax proceeds. Board action to approve the reimbursement of documented tourism response related off-duty detail rate for the Sheriff's Department.
Okay. Pleasure of the board.
It is, correct.
So move.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Sanders. Any discussion? I'll say this under discussion. I'm good with this, but I think that the residents and the people involved would rather see it be full-time deputies in positions. I realize there's an in-between, so that's why I'm good with what we're doing, but understanding that we're still moving toward using those funds to have full-time people when we can get it worked out. Any other discussion before we vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's a unanimous vote. Anything else, Ms. Griffin?
That's it for the
Okay.
Sheriff's
That's
Department
it.
items.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Yes, sir. No, that's good. It's good to handle it while he was still here. Thank you. All right. Miss Valerie Hill, Pan Care,
Yeah, I was looking, Commissioner.
she online or no?
Valerie here at all, so we might have to end up, and, well, you have the email.
Yeah, Miss Wiles, yeah.
Has to be postponed, rescheduled to the next
Okay.
meeting. So I guess we go straight to Evan and let
Yep.
me get his.
Mr. Evan Blythe from the ARPC, the Regional Planning Council. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, how are y'all doing?
Doing well.
Hey, I just wanted to provide a quick update and then give you guys the opportunity to provide input on some of the waterway markers that we're going to be placing along the living shoreline footprint. Today I'm just going to show you the 3 areas that we have already completed in front of the school area, and then in front of Tate's Hell and a west and an east site. And my goal is to just leave this with you, let you guys reflect, talk to folks, and then if you had any suggestions at the next meeting, we'll be taking that into consideration. Here we go. Okay. So this is here at the school. If you can see at both the endpoints on the east-west and the one in the middle, we have these little white markers. They're going to have a steel plate welded on the back so that the lights aren't flashing into the road or into the houses. They're just going to be flashing out. This is what the Coast Guard needs us to have. This is the second site. The ones in red are optional, but we are suggesting the ones in white again. And then here's the last site. We're almost complete with these reefs, and this was the phase 1. We're about to move on to phase 2 with the private landowners. We're waiting on a boundary line survey for that. So just kind of wanted to leave this with you guys. If you had any questions, feel free to reach out to me on the side. Wanted to have your input as you're going to have constituents reaching back. People are going to be out there boating and using this recreationally, and we want to make sure that we're not causing any accidents. And then just here are a couple photos of some of the reefs. Keep it short and sweet because I know you guys got a lot going on today. So I'm going to leave this with Michael, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Okay, Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Evan Leaves today? Any concerns?
All right.
Mr. Evan, thank you for your time. Mr. Joe Ross, St. James Lanark Fire Department, update.
Okay, good morning to the Board of County Commissioners today. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today in regards to the progress of the St. James Lanark Fire Department. A little history, in May of 2022, the Board shut down the St. James Fire Department for non-compliance or non-response by the volunteers at that time, so it's been under county governance ever since that point. In October 2022, Robert Amick and Eric Grajales with the Florida State Firefighters Association started the reorganization and training of new volunteers, which basically started in January 2023. We spent several days cleaning out the fire department. We ended up taking about 2 roll-off dumpsters full of trash and other items from the fire department. And then we spent several more training sessions learning how to tie knots and operating the pumps and hoses on one of the fire trucks. In April 2023, 6 members attended the Florida State Fire College and took several classes on pump operations and wildland fire management, firefighting. In July of 2023, a representative from Tactical Fire inspected the 3 fire trucks and the 2 brush trucks. And at that time of the inspection, only 2 of the vehicles were started, and only 1 was capable of pumping water. Overall, his report indicated a very poor impression and assessment of the entire fire station and all of the trucks and equipment. During the summer of 2023, there was limited training and interaction with our fire coordinators. As volunteers, we then took the opportunity to schedule an EMR class, which Richard Lewis taught us, and it was a 40-hour emergency management medical responder class. And it was no expense to our department other than the $25 certification fee for each member. We had 6 members that completed that course in October, and then in February we had 2 more members recently complete an EMR class. So we also have 2 ladies that want to attend the next EMR class that we can schedule. So in November, we also scheduled an EMR training class in Waukulla County, or emergency vehicle operating class, or an EVOC class, to drive the fire trucks as required by the state. We had 9 volunteers in our department that completed that class. We also invited volunteers from the Alligator Point Fire Department to join us in that training session. So we had, I think, 6 or 7 their members also attended that training session. And since November, we feel like we've made great progress in our fire department. We've purchased new batteries for 3 of the trucks. We got all 5 trucks to start and operate. We sold the old Dodge pickup, which basically had no use. We had no use for. It was basically, almost in salvage condition. We received $2,000 for that truck, which we deposited in our operating account. And I guess one of the one of the trucks, I guess we call it the 1987 Ford truck, we're in the process of putting a new clutch in that truck. And then we hope to get it up and running. It'll hold 1,000 gallons. So it'll basically be a backup truck to our fire department. Our 1996 aerial ladder truck, we have Chris Smith, who recently joined our fire department from, I guess, St. George Island. And he's brings like 25 years of firefighting experience to our department. And he's been a great asset to us as far as training and overall development. We have recently acquired 2 young volunteers in their 20s, which all our other volunteers are in their 60 to 75 range. So we're great to have those 2 young people join our force. In December, we received a great asset courtesy of thanks to the Franklin County Board of Commissioners, Michael Marone and Jason Schote and Corey Simon. It was a grant from basically through Corey Simon and Jason Schote. So we've got a $450,000 new fire truck. Everything works on it. It's just a dream come true to operate. As far as communications, one of the challenges we have right now is probably communications with the county. As far as the dispatch, we only have 1 truck radio that works, so we're going to need 2 more radios for our trucks, at least 2. We plan to use e-dispatch to contact with our firemen. Currently, most of the fire departments in Alligator and Franklin County use the e-dispatch form to contact the firemen, which they receive a call, the fire chief or somebody receives a contact from the county dispatcher, then it goes out to the firemen, and then they respond to the fire. But also at the site, we need contact radios too, just like walkie-talkies to communicate among the firemen and at the scene. So our other main issue that affects everybody in our district is the ISO issue, which is basically fire insurance with our property owners.
Need radios. I do know that the sheriff's office didn't they get the legislative appropriation for new radios? Did they have to return those, or is there any way we maybe can talk to Sheriff Smith about utilizing, I don't know if you can, I'm sure they're on the same maybe bandwidth. I don't know if you can use,
yeah,
I don't know what megahertz.
Yeah, Erin had informed me Friday, I guess when I met with her Friday, about those possibility of those radios. So we're planning to check with
so that's an option.
Hopefully reprogramming them to.
Right.
So,
that way we don't have to spend any money. And
yeah, that's what we're
okay. All right.
looking at.
I just want to bring that up. Thank you, Chairman.
Well, yeah, because now we are still hopeful. We're working with Triumph to do a countywide emergency radio system. So that's going to incorporate everybody in the county, whether it be volunteer fire departments or the sheriff's office or dispatch or anything in between. And it's about a $12 million project.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about adding towers so we don't have weak spots or dead spots, and it's a significant project, but it looks like Triumph is moving along, and we're hoping it's going to be heard in April. So maybe that'll be a good thing moving forward for all of us.
Yeah, our goal is to probably, if we do radios, to get them as cheaply as possible,
Yes.
or to use what we can obtain, and not spend funds that we don't need to spend. So
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Joe, I've got one of the old fire radios, if y'all can use it, back when Mr. John Chandler was on it.
okay.
And it's brand new. I had never used it, and it's brand new. I'll give it to y'all if y'all want it. It might help y'all out a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, we certainly we have a.
Next time I'm out at Lanark, I'll bring it by and let you
Yeah, we have one radio on our fire department in the office and then one in one of the trucks, I
Yeah,
guess, so.
it was all, I mean, they had it all set up for me. If I ever needed it, all I had to do was call it. But the service I have up there at my house, I don't have anything to brag about. But I do want to take this time to thank y'all for what you've done, because this came in as nothing but volunteers, and you're bringing it back, and we're about that close to getting it up and running, and I'm telling you, y'all have done a good job. Y'all all have, and I appreciate that, because I know without a fire department, we've been very lucky,
Yeah, you know, I'd like to, you know, thank our volunteers that have worked with, you know, to open the fire department, you know, working towards opening it up, because they're very needed and very well recognized within the community.
That's right. Well, and Mr. Joe, please keep in contact with Michael and Aaron, and anything you need, you come to them. And this board's behind y'all opening back up and getting it running and all, and being self-sufficient for your area.
Commissioner Sanders, I was going to say, he is the chief. He calls us for anything.
He's a good guy.
Yes, very.
He's a good guy.
Communication lines are nothing like they were before. I mean, they're wide open. He's always email, call, ask questions. And I'm really glad to hear that you got 2 20-year-olds on your squad.
Yeah, we are
That is
too.
impressive. I'm sure there's some other envious volunteer fire departments around the county that would like to get some 20-year-olds on their squad.
And you've got to consider, the old fire department was old. They were in their 70s and 80s. I mean, but now you got some new ones. You said you had some 60-year-old ones and stuff like that. To me, that's young.
Yeah, it's been,
But,
you know, it has been a challenge, you know, starting from basically the ground up, because we, you know, it's.
But the main concern that I've been hearing is the ISO rating, and there's nothing we can do about that until y'all get up and running, 100%.
Yeah, we're trying.
And, I mean, there's nothing there, but I know as soon as you can, you're gonna get that up and running.
Yeah, we're trying to identify the low-hanging fruit on the ISO ratings to see what we can, you know, achieve the most with the least
Yes,
amount
sir.
of efforts and stuff.
Thank you for coming in, I appreciate
Okay,
it.
well, thank you.
And I would also, before you leave, I'd also like to express from this board our thanks to the Carabel Fire Department for continuing to back up in this transition time when we've been trying to work toward what we're doing. They have been very cooperative, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, that's very true. Thank you.
Thank you.
So offer training to the community. So we've been out actually to the Franklin County Library and did some trainings there. And we just the rural counties that we've done trainings in. So we're trying to reduce the stigma of substance use disorder and opioid use disorder. And so we just wanted to come in this morning and let you know we're here for the community. And if you guys need us, we will be more than happy to help you in any way we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bell.
Do you have any questions?
Anyone have any questions for Ms. Hill?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Dr. Nguyen?
Morning.
Good morning.
Well, I know in the interest of time, I'll get us going here. I know Mr. Marone is loading up the presentation. But my name is, while we're waiting, my name is Hugh Nguyen. I'm an emergency physician by background, and I actually have a home in Port St. Joe, so I'm quite familiar with Apalachicola. And I'll say this, I was probably the emergency physician that did the most shift during the pandemic in Port St. Joe. I think as Ms. Ward knows well. And so in that sense, I can truly say I've been treating Gulf and Franklin County residents for many years. But I'm not here today to talk to you guys about, obviously, my medical career. I'm here to talk about a hospital model that I think may be appropriate for Weems. And do you want me to scroll myself? Okay. So I'm going to move us along here, but so again, a little bit about me. The only other thing I'll say about me is I'm an ex-Navy physician, and in fact, that's me in Iraq when we first went into Iraq in 2003. A lot skinnier then. Iraq is a great weight loss farm.
I'm also the CEO of Doctors Memorial, and so during the pandemic, I worked as both an emergency physician and as the CEO of a critical access hospital in Bonifay, Florida. And I'll show you some of the financial performance that we were able to achieve at Doctors in Bonifay. And I bring that up as an example of the things we can do to turn around the hospital. And then finally, and probably most importantly, is I'm also the CEO and managing partner of North Walton Doctors Hospital. That is a hospital that had been defunct. It was called Healthmark Regional in Defuniak Springs. And myself and some other physicians have bought it back. And we're in the process of finishing off our license. And in fact, and I'll go over some of the things we're doing now in terms of licensing and construction. But it is going to be the first physician majority-owned, managed, and operated, and I'll go into what that means here as part of this presentation, in this country in 15 plus years. So it is all about physician ownership and physicians working at those hospitals. And I think that's a model that I think is very apropos for institution like Weems and how you can use it to transform that. I know my partner, Jim McLaughlin, is going to come here, but he's a spine surgeon, and he's critical in terms of the kind of services we want to bring here. I also have with me some of my team. This is Andrew O'Connell. Andrew's our CFO, and Andrew was the CFO at Alice Beach and some large multi-billion-dollar companies. But the biggest thing about Andrew is he has experience with merger and acquisitions and these kind of matters. Also with me is Gary Gargis. Gary is our architect over at North Walton. Gary has overseen the construction and redesign of what it took to bring back that hospital there in Defuniak Spring. And I think some of those same issues will apply here. And fortunately, Gary is quite familiar with Weems as well. And Gary only works in healthcare, so he knows the ACA process cold. So whatever you're thinking about doing potentially with Weems is going to have to go through the Agency for Healthcare Administration. All right, so I wanted Gary to be here. And next to Gary is Christopher Ryan. Christopher Ryan is one of our great partners at Philips. We bought all brand new radiology equipment at the new hospital. And in many ways, I'll tell you, the old hospital in Defuniak Spring has some of the challenges here. It was basically in a death spiral. It didn't have great technology and infrastructure. It was losing money. Then it started to lose providers, and then it got worse and worse, okay? And one of the things that I think is critical for turning around any hospital is bringing in the latest technology. I mean, you got a very savvy healthcare consumer or patients now. They'll see when you're using the best equipment. And is roughly about a 42% operating loss, okay? Your annualized fiscal 2024, so we got the first quarter of this year, so I just extrapolated out. You're on track to make about 9.6 million. So there's a decent jump in net operating revenue right now, but your net operating loss right now is projected to be about 3.3 million. So your net operating margin for this year projected is about 34%. I also know this because I know this from running Doctors Memorial. You guys got a low-income pool demand letter. So apparently, some of us have kind of gotten over-reimbursed for the low-income pool fund, and now CMS wants some of that money back. I don't know the exact amount you guys are being requested, but I know that you guys are getting requested, just as we in Bonifay got requested at Doctors Memorial. So this will impact your operating margin because you're going to have to pay back this amount. And right now, I don't see any way of getting out of paying it. And then I looked at it and I got access to what was subsidized. So obviously, with these kind of operating losses, the only way this hospital has been sustained is through your ad valorem tax and your sales tax subsidy. So for 2023, it looks like there was about $2.6 million in total subsidy. And then this year, annualized out, it's going to be about 3.1 million. So that is, from my vantage point, what you guys look like financially over the last several years. Let me benchmark that to a hospital that I know intimately. So at Doctors Memorial, I became CEO in August of 2020. So fiscal year 2020 wasn't even a year that I would say was under my leadership. But in fiscal year 2020 at Doctors Memorial, we collected 12.4 million. So That's a critical access hospital, just like this facility is a critical access hospital. And I would argue that this community, in my mind, is more robust than Holmes County. So from the get-go in 2020, it was already collecting a fair amount of revenue at $12.4 million, but it had a net operating loss of about $600,000. So therefore, its net operating margin came in at about a negative 4.5%. So 4.5%. In fiscal year 2023, so during my tenure as CEO, we went from collecting $12.4 million to collecting $21.4 million. So almost more than double. And to me, fiscal 2023 is post-pandemic, and I'll annualize out our 2024. Right now, we're on track to collect $24.4 million based on our first quarter results up in Doctors Memorial. The net operating loss for 2023 was about $500,000, so we were able to decrease our operating margin loss to about 2.4. I'll be honest with you, any 3% on either side of zero in terms of an operating margin is pretty much break even for a critical access hospital. If you can be negative 3%, positive 3%, you've essentially broke even. Now, if you go beyond 3% for a critical access hospital, you're making money. Anything less than minus 3%, you're losing money. You guys are at 42% or 34%. So right now, annualized out for this year at Doctors Memorial, we're on track to do about 6% operating margin, positive 6%. All right? So let me also share with you some benchmarks which drove my tenure at Doctors Memorial. So in my mind, if you run any institution, you need to know what your benchmarks are and how do you stack up to those benchmarks. The national benchmark for a critical access operating margin as of 2022, which is a pandemic year, was 3.6%. In Florida, it was a positive 4.7%. Those margins, my guess, I don't have 2023 national data or Florida data, but my guess is it's probably a little contracted. So probably the national benchmark nationally for critical access hospital presently is, like I said, probably a little bit less than 3%. What you need to do is to look at the basic structure of the hospital. Thank God, as of January 1, 2023, there was a new hospital classification or hospital provider type that is called a rural emergency hospital, okay? And these are some of the requirements for it, but I'm gonna highlight the key thing, that in essence, a rural emergency hospital is obligated to keep a 24/7 ER staff. But by the same token, it cannot maintain an acute inpatient care, but it can do observations. So a lot of times now in the ER, we will keep a patient overnight under observational status. You're still allowed to do that. So if you look at the typical ER, really 95% of the patients are either going to be discharged home or kept overnight, 1 or 2 nights, in an observational status. The rest of the time is when it qualifies for acute inpatient care. I would argue now you guys are effectively kind of a rural emergency hospital anyway, because your inpatient census is 2 to 4%, or I'm sorry, 2 to 4 patients. So you don't have a robust inpatient service now, okay? So then what are the advantages? If we give up our inpatient side, and by the way, you also give up your 340B drug program, but again, I don't think I think that has minimal volume right now. But the advantages are really simple. You get an additional 5% over your Medicare payment rate. You get a monthly subsidy, which as of this year is $276,000 and change, all right? And you can be paid for ambulance services and post-hospital extended care services. But in my mind, outside of that monthly stipend, the biggest advantage you have is that physicians can work there and be owners of the hospital. I'll tell you this, at North Walton, which again, the old hospital bill has passed the Florida Senate and the Florida House unanimously without a single vote against it. The governor is due to sign it. Our understanding is the bill is going to be presented to the governor here about this week or next week, and once he's presented, he's got 2 weeks to sign it. We don't have any doubts in our mind that this is going to be Florida statute, that provisions for a rural emergency hospital. And the nicest thing for us is that right now, North Walton Doctors Hospital will probably be the first hospital in Florida to become a Florida Rural Emergency Hospital. And once we become a Rural Emergency Hospital, we will get our federal designation. Okay, so I think you guys here at the board should think about the basic structure or classification of the hospital. And then I also think you need to look at renovating the current hospital. So I've gotten access to some of the plans and whatnot in the hospital. Let me say this. My guess is most of your infrastructure there in that hospital is now out of code, out of modern 50 square foot, as I've said. Your total projected cost in the worst case scenario, I think worst case scenario, we're talking about $350 a square foot. That would put you in around the $6.3 million mark, okay? Best case scenario, you can do it for about $200 per square foot. That puts you in around $3.6 million. And average renovation time for a project of this magnitude, I would bank on around 9 months, 6 to 9 months. All right, I know one of the things in some preliminary discussions is that you guys are looking potentially to build a new hospital. I can tell you right now, to build a new hospital, best case scenario, this is your best case scenario, is $500 square foot. And if you were to build a new hospital the size of the current Weems Hospital, 17,000, 18,000 square foot, you're looking at $9 million. That is just to build. Okay, these renovation and new building costs, or projection in my mind, does not include any capital equipment, any furnishing, or any pre-opening expenses. All right, so I'd love for this county, as it looks at how do we, laboratory companies that bring their samples to us to do. So now you're generating additional revenue. We think the same can be achieved at Weems. Offer comprehensive radiology services. You know, you guys know that Gulf no longer has an MRI. You guys get an MRI here. You're the only MRI, as far as I know, basically west of Tallahassee to Panama City. Okay, you got to invest in, like I said, I think orthopedic surgery would do great here. I think with the right investment in technology and the infrastructure and a focus on it, I think you can increase your ED volume by 23%. I mean, 25% of the residents here are going to Port St. Joe. What if you were able to just make the argument, hey, we're probably better than Port St. Joe, all right? And then I'm interested in exploring cardiologist services here as well, okay? I would also think about a complete corporate rebranding, all right? And I'm not gonna go in depth in this. You guys have this in the slide. And then finally, I cannot say it enough. You make all these changes. If you don't bring in good doctors, you're just throwing a ton of money after bad. So bring in good doctors, and I think the way to do that, in my mind, is physician ownership. And so I've had two thoughts about how, if we were to do this, if the county was to, in essence, divest itself out of Weems, we would be willing to take on the financial risks to make this transformation happen. But in taking it on, I'd offer two broad models that I'd love for this commissioner to think about. A public-private partnership where the county has minority ownership with a physician consortium that would come in here and, again, assume all the risks for this transformation. The county, if it wants, can be a partial source of financing. It can make interest on that if it wants, and then it would have a seat on governance. And then we would be willing to have a community support foundation so that we are ensured that we meet the needs and the input of the community. The other model, obviously, is a pure physician-owned, managed, and operated hospital. So a physician consortium group would purchase the hospital, explain where are we going, all right? And then during this 90-day period, think of it as like an engagement. I've never been left at the altar, but I know it can happen, all right? So if during this 90-day period you guys go, well, we're not really big fans of the strategic plan and whatnot, I'm willing to take that risk, but I would ask that there be a penalty on either side if we don't move toward closing on the letter of intent. And again, that can be negotiated as part of the letter of intent. So let me say this in summary, and I really appreciate the time you guys have given me here. You guys have a hospital that, in my mind, is in a death spiral. There's a new hospital classification that you can take advantage of. And you can do it without physician ownership. But I'm telling you, you can go from a critical access hospital to a rural emergency hospital If you don't have the right management, you don't have the right providers, you're just now going down another rat hole, okay? And I believe that we have a template, a model of physician ownership and involvement that can transform this hospital, and we're interested in looking at it. So again, thank you for your time. And sorry I had to speak like my typical Easterner approach. I grew up on the East Coast. I can speak a mile a minute. Any questions?
It's all good. Commissioners, do y'all have any questions or concerns?
I do actually.
All right.
I think we spoke about it before, but what about the clinics?
The clinic would be part of this. It would be the overall health system. I didn't want to, I think that'd be something that'd be part of this 90-day transitional period. So as part of our strategic plan, we'd have to address the ambulance services, which I know is part of the system, as well as all the clinic. And we're committed to a clinic system because that's, again, how you buttress or feed the main hospital.
I just wanted to bring that up because I'm sure you're aware we've lost a couple of primary care positions within the community, and that's been.
I think one way to recruit a primary care physician here is to, sell the beauty of the region, St. George Island, Appalachia is a cool place, and then dangle physician ownership in front of them.
So I got a question. Several things have been discussed today, and I do appreciate the presentation. There's a lot there. But that being said, just a couple of questions I have. So I know that the Rural Emergency Hospital, if I'm correct, I think it has to already be a building that's already built before a certain date, correct?
That is correct, and you guys meet that requirement. You meet all the requirements, honestly, to be a rural emergency hospital. It's a no-brainer.
Right. Well, I just wanted to make sure I was correct and make sure the public knew.
That's correct.
That's part of what you're presenting.
Absolutely.
That's all you're talking about.
You have, actually, I would even say this. This hospital is actually the more appropriate model to be the first rural emergency hospital than, honestly, North Walton. North Walton, at 70,000 square foot, almost looks like a small community hospital. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. This is your classic hospital that this legislation or this designation was designed to save. The only thing, you could find a management group that says, hey, let's convert it to a rural emergency hospital. The only big difference, and that's why I keep emphasizing physician managed, physician owned, physician operated. That's the secret sauce on top of the legislation. Yeah. This legislation was so profound to us as doctors because
to 72 hours of observation. Yeah. So we could do those patients very rarely. I've never had to actually transfuse somebody with an ACDF or an anterior neck surgery. And so you'd be limited mostly on your larger surgeries in the back, like big instrumented cases like you talked about. Those would have to go to an inpatient facility. But an awful lot of discectomies, laminectomy discectomies, things like anterior cervical discectomies, those kinds of procedures. Right now, I do them at a surgery center already for some patients, for a limited number of patients, and they can go home after a certain number of hours. Right. Okay. But frequently, I think those patients, you could keep them overnight for even 2 nights for observation. You would be okay.
And let me say this about orthopedics in our region. One of the reasons why, and we learned this when we were rolling up North Walton, there is now a 2 to 3 month wait if you want to get a joint replaced. 2 or 3 month wait to do some basic spine surgery. And the rate limiting factor is not the number of orthopedic surgeons. There's enough. The rate limiting factor is the number of facilities that can accommodate it. Like those Mako robots, in all of Tallahassee right now, we believe there's about 6 Mako robots for that entire area. In Panama City, we know without a doubt there's 4 Mako robots. Now in North Walton, we have 1 of them. You put 1 here, trust me, they will come. There will be surgeons that will be like, you have a Mako robot? Great. I'll just tell my patients, if you want to get your joints done faster, drive an hour more, an hour 15 minutes to go to Apalachicola, and I'll do it next week. We're not going to have a lack of demand for it. And in fact, you guys have the Gibson. I was going to say, if we did this, I'd go to the Gibson and say, hey, let's make this a package deal, or some other nice hotel, Coombs or whatever.
Sounds good. it is a lot of information, and I don't know how the board feels, but I think we would be better served if it works for y'all's time schedule, for us to schedule an evening workshop so members of the public can attend and we can actually ask some questions before we move forward. That's how I feel, but I don't know how the rest of the board feels. It's a lot of information.
If I may, as mentioned in this presentation, I would recommend at first we go through the process of engaging your consultant. Then we circle back, to Dr.
Either way.
Newman, and then have a workshop at some point if it's something you're,
Either way,
because I'm sure your consultant will want to be part of the discussion too. at some
Okay,
point.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
So you mentioned Bonifay, and Bonifay is currently a critical access hospital?
It is.
When you came on board, it was a critical access hospital?
Yes.
Okay. Then we mentioned REH here, proposal.
Yes.
And Doctors Memorial is doing good, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So what does it take to do the same thing here, to keep critical access hospital?
I think you can, but I don't know right now how you recruit providers here. I know you're already having that problem. And like I said, the rural emergency hospital, the big game changer is I can call an orthopedist like Jim and say, hey, Jim, why don't you come and join me on this endeavor, and you can invest in it, you can help back the loan, because for us to get finance for this deal, if we did this purely on our own, because we did it in North Walton, my name is a personal guarantee on a ton of money. And I'm grateful that I also have peers who are personal guarantors with me on it. So we know we can finance this. So to answer your question, Commissioner Kroom, I think the biggest thing you can, but right now, I don't see a way forward as a critical access hospital. So to answer your question, I don't know how you do that based on the current situation.
So, say if we did the REH,
Yes.
how many jobs would be lost?
I don't think you're going to lose any job. You're going to add jobs. In the OR alone, you're going to add 30 personnel. I don't know how you run 2 ORs, additional OR, and I'm expanding the ER. So the last thing I'm going to do is go in here and trim ER nurses. I under whatever scenario I'm thinking about now, you're not going to lose jobs. I think your inpatient census is now 2 to 4 patients. I know that without even like having to look in depth. So you got maybe 4 or 5 people on any given day working in the inpatient ward. They would still stay there because we're still going to have observational beds. And a busy ER is going to load more patients into those observational beds anyway. So you're not going to lose any inpatient personnel or the people that are working your inpatient. You're going to have to add to your ER, and you're going to have to add to your OR. So, and then I really want to get my hands during this strategic planning process around the clinic. I think the clinics, again, if you dangle ownership to a
With there being an increase of jobs, correct?
I do. I have no doubt about that.
Last thing I got.
And let me say this, I don't know the wage scale here, but I know there's been a loss of staff. And my guess is we're not only going to have more employees, but we're probably going to have to readjust the wage scale upward. Yes.
So this is the last thing I got. For Doctors Memorial, I have your 2022 analysis.
Yep.
In front of me. What concerns me about this analysis that I'm reading, one of the items said on 001, the going concern for Doctors Memorial, it says deteriorating financial condition.
No, I can tell you that was we had a moment as we were growing, we went from 12 million to 21 million. We went into a point where, again, the cash flow was catching up. I'm happy to share with you, it's public information since it's a Florida. I'm happy to share with you the current January data. This first quarter, we made $606,000. Our cash flow is incredibly strong right now. Now, we'll see what this low-income pool demand letter is doing, but the reason why I became CEO at Doctors and Memorial, because they defaulted on their bond payment. So that forbearance, those concerns have been around for years.
All right,
And
so
I would
it's-
say
it's
that.
22 audit analysis.
Yeah, that's 22. So 23 is coming, and then, like I said, I'm more than happy to get you the first quarter of 2024.
Okay. Well, that's my concern, because what I have highlighted here said, these factors raise substantial doubt about the hospital ability to continue its going concern as indicating a deteriorating financial condition.
That's correct.
Okay, that was 2020, or
22.
2022.
Yeah.
So my question to you, your 2023 audit, when it comes available,
Yeah.
will it be better than what I have in my hand?
It's going to be a lot better. As I just shared with you the data, the raw data we have, and I'm happy to share the raw data for the first quarter. And again, this is why I'm here speaking to you. If I didn't know how to run or turn around a distressed hospital, I wouldn't be here. Bonifay was truly in a death spiral, and it had a concern about being an ongoing concern for years.
Mr. Chairman, I've got a question. Dr. Nguyen, thank you for being here today with your staff. So I asked a question back when we had a previous presenter here about the REH and critical access designation. You can't have both, correct?
You can't have both.
And you're saying in your presentation that the critical access designation isn't really doing us a service anyway because we don't meet the inpatient bed criteria and the, was it 340B pharmaceutical program, we're not really saving money with that, correct?
You're not generating enough revenue or margins on your 340B drug program to offset your losses. And your critical access hospital, you're a critical access now, you just don't have enough Medicare volume with the built-in margin of a critical access hospital designation to offset your losses. I mean, these losses is not new to you guys. It's been going on for years, and you've been a critical access for years. And I don't know, to answer Commissioner Kroom's question, I don't know how you change that under staying as a critical access. I don't see, but to answer your question, there's not enough margin derived from being a critical access as well as the 340B drug program to offset the operating losses.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, so just to know, and I know we're probably going to have more discussion about this going forward, the hospital you were describing a minute ago when we were talking with Commissioner Kroom, is that the one in North Walton?
Yeah,
That
no,
has
that's
two-
the one
two
in
arms?
Bonifay.
Bonifay.
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the one in Bonifay, and again, but Bonifay does not have any intentions of converting under a critical access, into a rural emergency hospital.
Okay.
It has an average census, daily census on its inpatient ward of around 10 to 15 patients out of 20 beds. It has enough inpatient business, and that's part of its mission. And I would argue here that you can try to hang on to that inpatient service, but you're not doing inpatient care now.
Right. Okay. That's fair enough.
Just in layman's terms, inpatient care, we're just shipping them out, correct? I
You're
mean,
just shipping them out.
the Same thing really happens over in Gulf County.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Just so the public understands that.
So in Gulf County, the average census on any given day is around 5. And ain't that, so, and they're not even a critical access.
I just wanted to clarify
That's-
that for the people that are listening or
That's
whatnot
correct.
in the public.
And that's why I think it was to CMS credit that they built this new designation. This designation is the beginning of a financial game changer for a small rural hospital. But the problem is, I think if you don't know how to recruit good providers here, then you got a nice big subsidy at the end of the day, but you're still not much of a hospital.
Mr. Chairman, I got one more question, and this may be a loaded question. If you
Yeah, sure.
don't know how to answer it, that's perfectly fine. But in my mind, I feel like this REH designation personally is kind of a way of them weeding out the critical access designation period. Do you agree with that, or what's your in your professional medical background? Do you feel like they're trying to phase the CAH out?
I don't know if they're deliberately trying to phase the CAH out, because I think there's tons of small rural hospitals that are doing inpatient care, Bonifay being a good example. But I think this legislation is trying to help the struggling CAH hospitals that are not doing inpatient care. And so the policymakers are essentially saying, hey, why don't you just focus on the most important thing your community needs, which is that emergency care, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you guys would love to have inpatient service here, but the thing you definitely want here is a team that knows how to manage a heart attack. And I promise you, the ER providers that are committed to coming here as part of this consortium, they know how to manage heart attacks. And I'm sure the guys here do too. But again, so along that line, I would add one thing. So the CT machine that we bought at North Walton is a 128 slice CT that can do cardiac imaging. Think of the technology that is coming online. So the old days when you came in with chest pain, we did an EKG, we did your cardiac enzymes, and you were told, hey, I don't think you're having a heart attack. Go home and see your cardiologist or your doctor. Well, guess what? In North Walton now, we're gonna image your heart. We're gonna show your coronaries. We're gonna show where there's potential disease or where you may have problem. So when you go home from an ER visit, you'll be told, show this to your cardiologist. He'll know what to do next. That's what you need here more than anything.
All right.
Mr.
Thank you,
Chair, I have one
Yep,
thing.
go ahead.
It was a bit unclear, but I want to
Yeah.
make sure I understand. So will you continue to manage EMS?
Absolutely. Good Lord, I think that's a built-in advantage. If anything, I'm gonna be out there pounding the pavement in Apalachicola saying, please don't tell the EMS driver to drive to Gulf or to Tallahassee, stay here. Because we got a kick-ass team and we have kick-ass technology. Are you kidding? I'm gonna probably be driving around in the ambulance service knowing me.
All right. Any other questions or concerns, commissioners? Well, you've given us a lot to think about, and I'm
Yep.
sure we'll be in touch.
Thank you
for
very
your
much. Thank you for
presentation.
your time, by
Thank
the
you for
way.
your time, Jim.
Would you take a break,
Yep, we
Mr.
can do
Chairman,
that.
because we have Ms. Sandra Brook, and then from there, we'll go to our P and Z report.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute recess.
So it was put together by the Community Advisory Board that was part of the Apalachicola Bay System Initiative. You guys are familiar with this, so I'm not going to belabor it, but they met 26 times all through COVID to produce this plan, which was approved at the end of 2023 and posted online on our website, January 2024. The plan itself is a bit of a monster. It's about 80 pages long, but we have produced a short 8-page summary, and I've brought copies here, which I give to Michael, and he can share them with you, and there's some extras if you want to make paper airplanes out of them or whatever you want to do with them. So that's our plan. Now, there's a number of components in this, this document. There's a number of different goals. There's 5 different goals. A and B are a healthy and productive ecosystem, and B is the sustainable management of oysters. It's oyster specific. So within each goal, there's the goal A was healthy and productive ecosystem. Within that, we have a vision statement, prospective outcome of that vision, a number of strategies and actions associated with those strategies. So you can see where this sort of balloons off into kind of a giant thing, a giant plan. So this is just an example of a strategy within Goal A. There are 7 strategies and 36 actions just within this one goal, okay? Establish monitoring methods that can be used to help restore and manage the Apalachicola Bay system. Okay, so it's just monitoring, so it's fairly simple conceptually. Number of different actions that might be done by the management entities or introduced to accomplish that strategy. And there's a list here. I'm not going to sort of spend all day going through each one of these little boxes, but this is just really to show you the structure of the plan itself. Okay, goal B, I'm going to focus a little more on because it seems like that's really what people are interested in, is the sustainable management of the oysters. So obviously the vision focuses on a sustainably managed oyster fishery and fair access to stakeholders. And by 2030, we would hope to have this science-based plan and the sustainable management. Okay, so an example of the strategy, evaluate management actions to manage the fishery, right? There's 5 potential actions associated with that. Evaluate potential for limited entry. Now, I know that this is controversial and unpopular. Again, it's just an option. It's been used in other fisheries. It's not prescriptive. We're not suggesting that this needs to be done. It's just an option, okay? Daily harvest limits and a 5-day working week. Again, these are things that were suggested by the stakeholder group. Manage harvest areas to avoid over-concentration of effort. This prevents the reefs being depleted. So it's essentially a move-on role. It's like, okay, we've taken enough from this reef, let's go somewhere else, kind of thing. Don't know how that would work. That's up to FWC. Consider bay-wide summer closure. Again, this is something that was suggested by the oystermen. Historically, they haven't been fished during the summer. So, and then recreational daily bag limit. So none of these, apart from maybe the first one, is really out in left field. So these are not wild imaginations. They are what seem to be reasonable strategies or actions. So because this is such an important thing, and I would like people to understand what the goal B elements are. So I've just talked about strategy B1, ecosystem, but it's something to look into. So again, these are the other 3 goals: management and restoration plan. That's kind of what I'm talking about now. Thriving economy, stakeholder education and engagement. Again, I'm not going to belabor these, but these are part of the full document, and this is actually pulled directly from that 8-page summary, which is, as I said, Mr. Marone has copies of that. You can also get them from me should you be interested. So there's again, the management and restoration plan, that there will be an adaptive restoration plan. This is up to FWC to produce. This is not our document. So our document has been given to FWC and other management entities. It's up to them what they do to it. They could shred it, they could implement part of it, they could implement all of it. That's up to them. The stakeholder engagement, again, is very important part of this whole process. And then ultimately what we want to see is a thriving economy that is actually connected to the traditions of the Bay. Okay. This is just the back page of the document that shows all the CAB members and the leadership. But I wanted to point out that this is available, the whole plan and the glossy in a PDF format is available on our website. And there's the website address. You can pretty easily search it if you're interested. So moving on, so the Community Advisory Board was kind of disbanded after its job was done at the end of 2023. But in order to continue this community engagement, what was born from the CAB was the Partnership for a Resilient Apalachicola Bay, or the PRAB, which is not a very attractive acronym, so we're calling it the Partnership. And so where we are with that, the partnership will help implement that plan or elements of it for Apalachicola Bay, and make recommendations of changes to the plan as time goes on. Again, this is a completely different stakeholder group. This is not the CAB, it's completely different. And ultimately its goal is to serve as a hub, a communication hub between the stakeholders and FWC. So at the moment, the funding for this partnership has been secured through ANA for 4 years, up to 2027. So it is an ongoing unit. Ms. Betty Webb, who I believe most of you know, she's local lady.
And if we're going to have anything, it's incumbent upon them to be taking care of it now.
I am
not sometime in the
100%
future.
agree. I mean, right now it's closed.
Yes.
It's never easy enforcing, and I wouldn't want to imply that it is, but
Right.
if you can't enforce a complete closure, it's going to be a lot harder to enforce a complicated ecosystem-based management plan, which is dependent on a lot of different moving parts. So that's absolutely critical.
It is, and I know it was a lot of money, but I can tell you the time, and it wasn't always likable or doable, I'll be honest, because at the time I was actually working on the bay. But when we had check stations, which required a lot more money, a lot more manpower, things were being held in check.
Yep.
They were actually, it was actually performing the duty that they were put in place for. I know we'll probably never return to that, but it did actually work.
Well, I can ask Devin to speak to that, but this is something that, you know, has been brought up, that the check stations worked, and yes, you know, certain elements of the community may not have liked them, but they worked.
There's always going to be that back and forth, right?
Yeah,
But that's just inherent in any system. And it doesn't matter what system you make, there's always going to be 10% that have an issue with it. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Even what we're doing here today in government, there's always going to be 10% that say we're doing it completely wrong.
Yeah.
And you just have to keep doing what you think is the best to do.
Never going to please everybody.
Yes,
but this is, I mean, for something like that, for example, that's something that the partnership could push. If the stakeholders feel strongly that that's something that will work, then they need to keep talking and hammering, basically, at FWC to provide the funding to support that. Because the funding doesn't come unless the stakeholders want it. I mean, you know this.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm preaching to the choir here. You know how to do this better than I do.
And we're also talking for the public good, Dr. Brooke. It's all good. Anyone else have any questions or concerns?
I'm just.
Go ahead.
I'm just glad that y'all see for the need for the wild oyster harvest and the aquaculture. Because most of the time in the areas where the aquaculture is, you know, it's not, the salinity is not right, or something like that's always going on. So I'm glad to see that. And we've got more areas of the bay, especially toward the eastern end of the county, that can do more aquaculture also. And I know at the time that John Gunter was there representing the Department of Ag, Division of Aquaculture, he said there was about 4 more sites that was in the eastern part of the county that could be expanded to do the aquaculture. And but I sure do like that wild caught though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my preference. I like them big ones, like on that picture there. Yeah. That picture right there. Them big
one at the end. Yeah. They're pretty, aren't they?
Anyway, so now y'all gone from that, and you've turned in your information and everything. So now what are you gonna?
Area inside the bay because of where those lines were put.
Yeah.
But there wasn't any acknowledgement from anybody, you know, that we need to have this concern. So that's the only thing, when you're giving up water column, make sure it's somewhere that's not gonna affect someone else.
Yeah.
Because you're giving, it takes the entire water column to do aquaculture. And the whole thing about it is, the entrepreneurship deal is good because the biggest issue that those that have traditionally been in wild caught oyster, that's what they've done. Couple of things. Most of them consider themselves self-employed when they're actually a contracted vendor. They're not, you know, they have the self-employed, like they can go out when they want to and then leave when they want to, but they have to sell them to somebody. There is no going around that. So they actually are working for somebody else, but it's as a vendor or a contractor or a subcontractor, however you want to look at it. So, but when you go to aquaculture, well, now you're truly going into business for yourself, and every step of this is incumbent upon you. And, you know, the capital to get into it, the ability to know what you're actually getting into is outside the wheelhouse of those that traditionally operate as a vendor.
That's right. It's very
You know,
different.
it's just
and
a
financially, it's
so
very
that's
different.
a good thing to have that discussion and open up that discussion.
Yeah.
Because for those that want to be a part of that, then they'll know that there are steps to help them go from A to B when they don't see a clear line in between. Does that make
Yeah.
any sense?
No, it does, absolutely, and I know what's in the proposal, and it's, but there's no specifics, you know, this is something that would be a discussion if Triumph agrees. But I'm hoping that they work with Franklin's Promise, because that's a great program, brings in young people that are just starting in their careers, and to kind of
After the hour, we had a 11 o'clock public hearing scheduled. Can we move to that and then come back to the planning and zoning? It's item 17. If you're following on your paper agenda, it's on page 5.
Yep, that'll be fine. Attorney Schuler?
All right, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is a duly advertised public hearing for you to consider the adoption of an ordinance. Is the board ready to proceed, and do you have any questions for me before I proceed? Okay. The caption of the ordinance is an ordinance providing penalties for working without the permit required by the Franklin County Zoning Code, providing for issuance of stop work order for work commenced without the permit required by the Franklin County Zoning Code, providing a penalty for violation of the stop work order, providing a definition for violation of stop work order, rescinding all ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. I want to draw to the board's attention and the public that this ordinance does not address people who violate the Florida Building Code. For example, they commence construction without a building permit. This ordinance does not address that. I've had a conversation with your building official. He informed me that he is satisfied with the current state of the penalties and processes that he has in place for violations of the Southern Building Code. So this ordinance is limited just to people who fail to obtain the permit required by your zoning code, which essentially is site development, land clearing, things of that nature. There are some others, but principally that is the subject matter of this ordinance. An application for the after the fact permit, together with payment in full of all fines and fees. The fourth offense and all subsequent offenses, and I want to highlight that I have added fourth. The original ordinance said fourth offense, but it seemed to me that I don't want to presume that someone would only stop at the fourth offense. They may do subsequent offenses. So the fourth and subsequent offense would be the issuance of a stop work order, plus criminal prosecution in the same manner as misdemeanors are prosecuted pursuant to Florida Statute 125.69, as it is amended from time to time, and the stop work order shall not be lifted until the resolution of the prosecution and the payment of all fines and penalties, if any. And of course, if they're found not guilty, then the stop work order shall be automatically lifted. The penalty for the violation of the stop work order shall be prosecution of the same manner as misdemeanors are prosecuted pursuant to the same statute, 125.69. And then there's providing a definition for the violation of the stop work order, which is essentially once the stop work order is issued, if they continue to work, then that is deemed to be a violation. Then severability, what that means is if a court should determine some part of this ordinance to be unconstitutional or unenforceable, they will sever that offending portion and continue to enforce the remainder of the ordinance. The rescission means that any ordinance in conflict with this ordinance, if you should adopt it, would be rescinded, but only to the extent necessary to avoid the conflict. In the effective date, this says the ordinance shall take effect as provided by law, and what law provides is it will take place as long as we record this within 10 days of your adoption, then the ordinance will be in force and effect. Then provided adopted this 19th day of March 2024 by a vote of blank out of 5 members, and we do have all 5 members here today. So unless the commissioners have any questions for me about this, it would be appropriate to open the floor for public comment.
Okay.
Mr.
You have
Chairman,
any questions?
there are copies of the ordinance on the back table for the
Okay,
public.
so there are copies of this ordinance on the back table if you need one or don't have one. Commissioners, any questions before we do public comment?
Mr. Chairman, just real quick, on the stop work order, I know that we had talked, I think the chairman brought up at the last meeting, I don't see it in here. Did we amend this to state the fact that if, say, they do come and they're in violation and they come and pay their fees and get the permit, and the stop work order is lifted, our P&Z department may not be able to issue the permit that day. They don't need to be penalized for that, right? Is that
Yes, ma'am. I
stipulation?
think I've taken accounted for those instructions from the board by changing the language to provide that upon the submission of a completed after-the-fact permit and the payment of all fines and penalties, upon the submission of that application that's completed and the payment, then the fines would stop. But for example, if they submit an incomplete application, or it's a complete application but they don't pay the fines and fees, then those daily fines continue until they satisfy 2 conditions: completed application and the payment of all past due fines and fees.
Okay, thank you for
Now,
the
if the
clarification.
board has different directions, I can certainly amend it, but I think that's what the instructions from the board were at the last meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, because the other language had it where they were still paying the fines until
Yes,
they
sir.
actually got, something from the department, but it's kind of unfair to, if someone's having a stop work order, to stop everything we're doing in planning and zoning to make sure we turn their application around.
I
to-
agree.
You know what I mean? So I like this language a lot better.
Plus, there's no telling how long it'll take to get it back. There's no need in that contractor to
Right.
sit there and pay those fees,
No.
waiting on the department.
No,
But
that would be unfair.
Just to make sure that we're clear for the public, not for the staff, I know staff understands it. Say, I'm a contractor, I get a stop work order, I come in 5 days later, I complete my application, I pay my fines and penalties that are due as of the date that application is submitted. They're still going to have to make sure that they provide all the information to the staff, because otherwise those fines and penalties will continue, okay?
Yep.
I mean, I just can't stress that enough.
You mean a
because
completed
a
application is what you're
completed,
saying?
and payment of the fines and penalties, because if they don't do both of those things, those fines are going to continue racking up.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions before we do public comment? Okay. Is there anyone in the room that would like to comment publicly? Please come forward, state your name for the record. This is a public hearing.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Attorney Schuer, everyone. Debbie Jordan, Lanark Village. Nice to see you all. I did not understand at the beginning when you said that Steve Patterson said that things were okay the way they were, and then you read the draft ordinance, which I've read, and I appreciate you sending me a copy. Where I'm confused is because my observation that a lot of the stop work orders and that were from Lanark Village area on St. George Island area, complete juxtapositions of income and lifestyle, and that some of these fines and the tripling in that could put someone out of their home rather quickly, especially at the low income that the people in Lanark Village, a lot of them are low income. So what I'm still not understanding, if you could help me understand, please, is what about the people who have already been in violation before this ordinance is coming up? What about the guy who put his fence up 20 years ago that's 8 feet tall and put the add-ons? Where does that fall with this ordinance?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, this ordinance, I'll address the board. This ordinance is not retroactive. I had no instructions from the board to make it retroactive, and if I
support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jack Derlin in Carabel. Just had a couple housekeeping questions. Now that there's going to be some substantial penalties, how is the board going to confirm that they've actually received how is the board going to know that the alleged violator has actually received a notice of violation?
Through staff.
Through staff, but how will staff do that?
The same way they always do it.
Well, in the case of the U.S. mail, sometimes the mail doesn't get forwarded. What I'm suggesting is that the board have a formal confirmation that the notice of violation was issued, like, you know, a registered letter or.
It's always certified.
That's included in it, I believe, but also if you have a stop work order, we put a sign on the property.
Okay.
So I mean, there's actually, the staff will go out and put a sign on the property, letting them know that there's a stop work order,
Gotcha.
whether or not the mail is delivered yet or not.
Okay. And then the other question I have is, if you dispute the need for a permit and you're working with a third party to determine whether you really need a permit, how does the violation penalties progress from there? Do you notify?
Does it fall on the homeowner or does it fall on the contractor?
I guess it would depend if you actually have a contract with them, or if you're just doing it verbally.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of just
Yep.
stuff getting done
Yeah,
under the
but I'm
table.
not the lawyer, so I'll defer to him.
contractor, he's one with a license, you don't have a license, but you don't, your work stops until it gets resolved, so there is a penalty to the homeowner not getting their work done.
Sure, sure.
And to answer the last gentleman's name, I think it was Mr. Irwin from Carabel.
Mhm.
And I know that Ms. Courtney tried to answer, I'm not sure if everybody heard, but this ordinance imposes a penalty. It doesn't recite all the other requirements in the zoning code, but there actually is a process where the stop work order is posted on the property, as the chairman said, but there is also a notice that is mailed to both the contractor and the property owner under the zoning code, if I remember. I don't enforce it on a day-to-day basis, but that's my memory, am I correct? She's nodding in the affirmative, yes. So there is notice sent to both the homeowner and the contractor, mainly so the homeowner can go browbeat their contractor into doing the right thing.
Right.
And as the chairman said, ignorance of the law is no excuse. If the code requires a permit and either the homeowner or the contractor doesn't get it, the permit pulled, then there's still the penalty.
Thank you.
Okay. And, Mr. Chair, if there is no further public comment, I also want to
I
stress.
think we have one online, sir.
Oh, did we? Okay.
No, we have not checked online yet.
Okay.
So,
Nine.
I apologize.
He's asking.
If anyone online would like to comment on this, please indicate by raising your hand. No hand raised, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
And this goes to your comment at the last meeting, Mr. Chairman, and the comment that Commissioner Ward had, probably the rest of the board is thinking. Now, the permit, after the fact permit, the completed application, payment of fines, that stops the daily tally of the fines. However, the stop work order doesn't get lifted until the actual after the fact permit is issued. I just want to make sure that the public is aware of that, because there's going to be an administrative delay between the application being submitted, the after the fact permit being issued. So if they go in and they file their application and pay their fees and they go to work before the after the fact, then they've committed a completely different violation of the stop work order. So just make sure that's out in the public as well, so.
Okay. All right. Any additional questions from the commission in light of some of the public comments? All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
Also move to approve this.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward,
Second.
second by Commissioner Croom. Any further discussion before we vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous, 5-0. That concludes the public hearing, does it not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so now, Mr. Morone, we'll go back to the Planning, Zone, and Adjustment Board report.
It's a big one, page, starting item 11.
I do want to ask a question before we get started. Because we can do these all as one motion, or we can, if Commissioner wants to pull one, they can. But we need to talk about that ahead of time. But the question I have, especially on all these critical shoreline applications, a lot of them are requesting boat lifts. Ms. Courtney, all of them that are requesting boat lifts, do they already have a house on that property?
All of them have a house, 564 River Road, which is item G. Has a permit pulled as of 1/30/2024. So
Okay.
the only one that doesn't have a house is the 1470.
Okay, but all the rest of them do?
Correct.
Okay, and I only ask that because we've had the discussion in the past.
Yes.
About people having just an empty piece of property and requesting a boat lift, well, now they have power on that property.
Correct.
That's led to other issues for us.
Yes.
So that's the only reason I was asking. Okay. All right, so before we start this critical shoreline application section, Commissioners, is there any of these A through G that you want to pull and talk about independently, or are y'all good with doing one motion?
I just, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
I was wanting to ask some questions about the item B underneath critical shoreline application.
Okay.
And item
F.
F,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay. And if you don't mind, I'd like to pull those to
Okay.
talk to them individually.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion on A, C, D, E, and G under the critical shoreline applications that we have in front of us.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull G to talk about that individually as well.
All right,
Yeah, G.
Yep.
G.
G.
all right.
So do you want us to read off the addresses for them before you make the motion?
Please do. It would be A, C, D, and E.
1273 East Gulf Beach Drive, 857 Highway 98, 2532 CR 30A, 1911 Highway 98 West.
Okay. Pleasure of the board.
And these, Mr. Chairman, these have homes on them already, or primary
Yes,
structures?
correct.
Okay. So move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Amison. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Ms. Courtney, let's go to item B.
Item B.
1567 Alligator Drive.
Is that microphone on, Courtney?
I'm sorry.
Lane?
Yes, it is. It's just not close
Okay,
enough
y'all
to
just
us.
had it
Okay,
pulled away from you.
1567 Alligator Drive is the one in question.
Yeah.
A consideration of request to construct a private single-family dock that consists of a 4x350 access pier and a 10x6 terminal platform and 20x40 covered boat slip with lift, and a 16x40 uncovered boat slip with lift located at 1567 Alligator Drive, Alligator Point, Franklin County, Florida. Request submitted by Florida Department Environmental and Land Services. Agent is Brand East, and agents for Brand East, sorry.
Okay, I was just concerned about the length of it. But I see right there where it's, okay, I didn't have this picture just a while ago.
It's up there, Ms. Earl.
Zoom in on it?
Yeah, I got it right here.
Okay.
I'm looking at it right there. Yeah, I was just wondering, so they voted, the planning and zoning board voted yes on it?
Yes.
Okay, and there wasn't no problems anywhere else then?
No, they had, DEP and 4 permits.
And there is a house there, right?
Correct. Yes.
So it will have electricity to the dock
Yes.
for the boat lifts? Okay. All right. Go ahead and, go ahead and make a motion to approve this thing.
Okay. We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Sanders, second by Commissioner Amison. Any additional discussion, Commissioners? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous.
All right, our next one is gonna be 1470 Alligator Drive. A consideration of a request to construct a 4x2 88 access pier and a 10x16 platform, a 22x5 lower platform with 2 boat lifts, a 96.5 lunar retaining wall faced with riprap to extend 7 feet waterward at the property located at 1470 Alligator Drive, Alligator Point, Franklin County, Florida. Request submitted by Florida Department of Environmental Land Services and the agent for Christopher Register as the applicant. This application was a confirmation that the property has been brought into compliance with the zoning violation. And the dock was approved in 2019.
Okay, hold on. Stay right there. Yeah.
So I printed out the violation report for you guys. That's the violation number 2022-018. They had a seawall, pavilion, and shed built without a permit. It was later determined that after more research, that the dock had already been there and approved in 2019 by P&Z and county commissioners. So the gazebo that you see on there and the shed were placed on the property without a permit. So the first step in trying to get their violation in compliance was to come before the board to show that their pavilion and shed meet the required setbacks. This is not the end of their violation. This is just one of the steps to get them to move forward. They still have to, they will have to come up with work with the building department and the building official and have a new compliance date in order to have their dwelling permit pulled before they can even pull the permit for the other 2 structures that don't have a permit. So that's why you guys are seeing this, is because they're showing us through step 1 that they are bringing the structures into compliance.
But it's not under, the project is not under
The project is
compliance.
not, they're in compliance with the setbacks, but the project itself still has more steps. This is just step 1 of many.
Do you go ahead and approve it then, if you've got other stuff that's not in compliance with it? Mr. Schuler? Answer me on that one.
Well,
Because
you're
I
asking me
never,
to-
and I can say I've been here 22 years, I've never had a situation like that.
Commissioner, I'm unwilling to fly this plane while we build it during the public meeting. I don't have enough information. This is news to me. If you want a legal opinion from me, my recommendation is that you table it, let me find out from the staff what's going on so I can report back to the board, but I am unprepared to move forward on this issue at this time because I frankly wasn't aware of it.
Yeah, because I would like the attorney to weigh in on this, and he doesn't feel comfortable doing it today. I'm gonna make a motion to table this one and bring it back with Attorney Schuler's, recommendation.
We'll do it at the next meeting. We won't.
Yeah, yeah.
So a motion to table by Commissioner Sanders, second by Commissioner Amison. Any additional discussion, Commissioners, before we vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Item G.
Okay. 564 River Road, consideration of a request to construct a single-family dock that consists of 25x6 access pier, a 10x12 terminal platform with one 14x26 boat slip with a lift located at 564 River Road, Carabel, Franklin County, Florida. Request submitted by Florida Environmental Land Services, agent for William Oliver, applicant. And P&Z approved.
Mr. Chairman, so Courtney Link, you guys said that there is a current building permit that has been pulled to place a primary structure on this property? Okay, I'm okay with that, and I will go ahead and make a motion to approve this, but I wanna make a note. I wanna make sure that, cause he's to say they pull a permit to build a home and they don't follow through, and we've allowed them to do a dock with a lift, and now they've got electricity. and they're putting RVs on it. So I want to make sure that we follow through with the building. I know they have so much, a period of time to start commencement on that build. So I want to make it clear that moving forward that we need to be careful with these types of things too, because like I said, I know that they could pull a permit, doesn't necessarily guarantee that they're going to follow through with building a house, but I will give them benefit of the doubt. They did pull a permit, so I will go ahead and make a motion to approve this.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward,
Second.
second by Commissioner Sanders. Any discussion?
I do, Chairman.
Yep.
Going back to what Commissioner Ward was saying, what kind of course of action do we have with that? If someone applies for a permit to build a structure, and then we give them permission to put a dock on, then they go back and say, well, I decided I didn't want a house. I mean, we don't have a leg to stand on with that, though, correct?
We're building a pair of legs called code enforcement, and the business license really wouldn't apply in this scenario except for the contractor.
Mhm.
But yeah, code enforcement is the answer, and that is something that I'm working on with actually the Gulf County attorney. I mean, they've got a really, the last few years they've built a good code enforcement structure and business license structure over there, which frankly I plan on bringing back to the board at the next meeting, not necessarily for action, but to adopt an ordinance, but to authorize me to go ahead and schedule for the board to discuss whether it's ready for me to schedule the public hearing on the business license and the code enforcement. Basically a fine schedule and basically refining a little bit better the code enforcement structure that we have in place now. I mean, we've adopted an ordinance for code enforcement, we've adopted an ordinance for the magistrate system, but I think not recreating the wheel over from what Gulf County's been doing the last 3 years or so is something that I would like for the board to consider. I'm handling that end of it. Ms. Courtney's working on the software side with our existing software so that we can, this is what's called Civitech, is that what it's called? So your existing software provider apparently has the ability to add a code enforcement business license module. So that's what she's working on as well. But I don't know why we can't go ahead and start moving forward with the legal paperwork and let the software catch up at some point or at the same time. But that's what you're saying. I mean, what we would have to do, the current system that the board has occasionally invoked is the board authorizes me to go sue people in court, which we've done before, but it's not particularly effective because the court system tends to move at not at the speed of government, the speed the public would like. I mean, I've got litigation that sometimes is pending for years before it's finally resolved, and that's just, we need a more effective solution to that, and code enforcement seems to be people don't like having to pay fines, and they don't like having to pay lawyers, and they don't like having to come appear before a magistrate. So that's where this board has been moving for the last couple of years, and we're about to reach the culmination point, I think.
Another thing that the building official did bring up when I talked to him about it was a suggestion to the board to make a decision whether you want to consider docks as an accessory structure or not. That's another thing another suggestion to help turn the wheels of putting it in our ordinance that is generally an accessory structure. That may keep them from being able to apply for a dock permit if they don't already have a house on the property.
And also, in a separate conversation with the building official, it's issuing temporary power for something like a boat lift until the house is completed, gets it sealed, and it gets permanent power. Correct. That's another approach the building official and I were looking at.
Well, if you have code enforcement in place, that might work.
Yes.
But under our current system, that'll never work.
I'm concerned about that temporary power, y'all.
Well,
because this is the one thing that we've got holding over to make sure they comply.
Yes, but I think it's easier to deal with Duke Energy when it comes to temporary power than it is if you give them permanent power.
Correct.
That's the difference with Duke, because Duke said if we give somebody permanent power and then they don't do, because years past we used to make them fill out a form, you know, that you're using the power just for this specifically, you know, and if they don't, we should go back after them to turn it off. Duke Energy says, no, if we have an account, we're keeping that account. That's between you and the resident.
Yeah, but at the same time though, Michael, when I first got on the board, we were doing that temporary power for $50. But Duke didn't recognize that.
Yeah. So
Once they got power, they had power.
Yeah, but yes, you're right. But Duke, there's certain, I think, and again, I'm speaking out of turn, I'm speaking on behalf of your building official.
Yeah.
I think there is additional inspections that have to be done for permanent power, but I'll let him address the board with that.
Okay.
I want to say, Commissioner Ward, and I know that, I don't know if the applicant is out there, we're not, I want to make sure the applicant understands, this is not about them.
No.
This is a bigger problem the county's been
And Mr.
experiencing for
Chairman,
some
I
years.
saw a
Yeah.
gentleman, and I know this probably, I know we have a motion on the board, I know this probably isn't procedurally sound, but I did see a gentleman stand up. Are you are you the owner?
Yes.
Applicant?
Yes.
Could you come up to the podium, please, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman?
Look,
I know this
I'll
isn't
move it
procedurally.
Yeah,
right.
because I may want to pull
And-
my
We're under
second.
discussion.
And Mr. Chairman, this is again, nothing against you as homeowners
Yeah.
trying to get a dock. And you did pull a permit, and we appreciate that. And that's why I'm gonna motion to approve this. I did motion to approve this. We still have a motion on the board. However, we've been burnt in the past with people coming in and getting a dock permit with a lift, providing power to that dock, and then there's 2 or 3 RVs on the property. So that, we've learned by our own mistakes. And so we're trying to, as we move forward, prevent
talked about
further
that,
mistakes. So do you have anything to add, that you'd like to add?
Yes, I'm William Oliver. That is my future home. But I totally agree with Courtney. I like the idea of this being in the future an accessory structure. I never realized how hard it was to actually find a dock builder. And this whole process is very, very cumbersome from day one. You know, from purchasing the property to applying for the permit. You know, that's why I applied for the permit under my GC license, to hopefully make that, you know, like that easier. And just today, sitting here, I received my accessory structure permit for my carport. So I want to assure you, I'm definitely moving forward. This will be my future home. I'll let you know that. But I like the idea of an accessory structure, you know, because as a contractor, I want people to use contractors. You know, I get that. And I get it when our license is tied to it. It has a little more meaning, you know, and
It's more
for the
enforceable.
building department and, you know, entities like you guys to do that. But the main reason I'm here is just to kind of cut through the cluttering. There's, you know, I don't know if there's a document at this point to assure you guys I'm not building, but I'm just saying, I like to get all my permits at one time. So I know what all my costs are gonna be, so I can line up all the subcontractors, so I can build it. And that's why I did it this way, but it is a little cumbersome the way it's set up.
Thank you.
We've been in, I've met him, have talked more than once, and he kind of waited a little bit before, and pulled his building permit before he even went for P&Z approval for the dock. So he wanted to make sure, because I did explain to him about the situation with having docks on the property, with power without a house on the property. So he opted to wait until he pulled his building permit before he even went before P&Z.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, let me just say my concerns. This is right here, it seems like to me it's off the Three Rivers Road going up the New River where the Three Rivers go. All right, this is my only concern. I see on these other properties where they go out certain ways and then they cut back. That's the way you do it. I don't want this to any way impede the boat traffic coming down the New River. And it's right almost on that curve. You know what I'm talking about right there, Mr. Oliver? And so we need to be careful looking in this area from now on with the boat ramp. If you'll look, Jessica, right here, it shows you how the dock, they come on down there. It shows you how the docks come out and then they go down perpendicular on the land. That's good. But we need to be very careful when we look at these docks that they're not coming out so far that they're going to impede the boat traffic.
Yeah.
And New River is not as wide as what it used to be.
Yeah, and it looks like he's cleared that for his, barrier. His zone, he's cleared that a lot, like he's got enough space in there.
Yeah.
On that
Yeah.
front end, so that he's not.
Yeah,
impeding if he's
that
got-
portion of the river is very, very deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right there.
Oh, I know.
It
I
would
know
be
the
very
river.
difficult to go out any further.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying, I just don't want nothing to impede the boat traffic down the river.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I did make the motion to go ahead and approve
And
this.
my second still holds.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Approved.
All right, the P and Z kind of did things a little bit backwards, because we tend to spend a lot more time on variances than we do on critical shoreline. So they did do the critical shoreline first. So next will be the 2 variances. You want to read those? Do you want to do those? You want to do those separately, right?
Yes, please do.
Okay.
'Cause
All
they're
right.
variances.
143 West Gorey Drive, consideration of a request for a variance to encroach 13 feet into the West Gulf Beach Drive, 25 feet front setback to construct an 870 square foot storage addition on the property described as 143 West Gorey Drive, St. George Island, Franklin County, Florida. Request submitted by Sam Gilbert. Agent is Walter Armstead, applicant. Staff notes.
Yeah.
The applicant has 2 front streets and is only requesting encroachment on the Gulf Beach Drive side. Staff has no objection to the variance request. Staff recommends approval.
And board did approve it.
And board did approve it.
All right. Any questions, commissioners, concerns? I will say this from talking to the applicant, they're trying to expand and do some different stuff with the property. They're going over something that was historically there. And the proper procedure is to ask for a variance on what's being built now, or what they're proposing to build. So I'm good with it.
Yeah, they're not going any further out than the concrete pad that's already there.
Exactly.
And as you can see, they've got 2 fronts. It goes from West Gorey side to
Yep.
West Gulf Beach. The West Gorey side, drive side, they're fine. It's just that West Gulf Beach drive side, and this is, that big area here is how far they have before they even get to
Yeah.
West Gulf Beach
Right.
Drive.
And Mr. Chairman, they're not impacting anyone negatively on on the side that they're wanting
No,
to
'cause
variance.
they even need that side setback.
I also move to approve this.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Sanders. Any additional discussion before we vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous.
All right, the next one is 1273 East Gulf Beach Drive. Consideration of a request for a variance to encroach 50 feet into the 50-foot critical shoreline, mean high water line setback to construct a riprap revetment at the mean high water line, and the property described as 1273 East Gulf Beach Drive, St. George Island, Franklin County, Florida, request submitted by Florida Environmental Land Services, and the agent is Jack Rollinger. Applicant staff notes, the property owners has to encroach into the 50-foot setback to construct the riprap. Staff recommends approval and board approved.
Any questions, commissioners? Well, constructing riprap's gonna help protect their investment in their property, so I'm good with it.
Yeah.
There's some on the left and the right side of them as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I was gonna say the same thing. I mean, all they're trying to do is just trying to protect their investment. And let's face it, how many times we had people come before this board because their property's starting to erode and they have less land. And so, I'll move to approve this.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Amison. Any additional discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. All right. Now, commercial site plan applications, we have 3. Do y'all want to do these separately, or do y'all want to do them in one motion?
I have one quick question to do.
Yep.
And y'all probably said this and it flew right over my head, but.
What's up?
What about item A, the variance?
It was tabled.
Okay.
It was tabled.
Again, it flew right over my head.
But now, Joe.
I think you're, Mr. Chairman, you were looking at the actual, plan and zoning report.
Yeah.
And it says there that it was tabled, which is why it's not on our report here.
Oh, okay.
It gets confusing because you are looking at two different reports.
Hey, I have my moments. Y'all know that.
It's all good.
And you don't even have blonde hair.
Here we go. So do y'all want to do these commercial site plans together or separately? Get back to the question that was asked.
Mr. Chairman, I'm okay with doing them together.
Okay.
They're pretty much cut and dry, I feel.
Yeah.
Most of them, whatever they are, yeah. The pole barn and the further development of the property we just approved the setback on.
Yeah.
And then a commercial site plan review to add another building at Oyster City Drive.
Which is
You
already
want me to
there.
just read the
Area being
addresses?
All right, so any
Yeah.
questions on any of these before we proceed?
Mr. Chairman, just want to make a note that the staff all recommended these. Okay. And by staff, I mean you guys are Planning and Zoning and Board of Adjustment Board. Okay. Thank you.
So you got 20 Schuler Street, 143 West Gory Drive, 114 Oyster City Drive.
Yep. And they all meet all the setbacks and everything they have to do with their site plan, correct?
Correct.
Stormwater and all, parking,
All right.
regulations, all that.
Pleasure of the board.
So moved.
Have a motion to approve all three by Commissioner Amison.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Croom. Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
One is giving so many feet of their rear property, of their property, and the other one is giving the same amount in the front. They've met with Mark on this, and he's fine with it, as long as they're giving the acreage of
Yes.
the lots will remain the same.
Right. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I got a question.
Yep.
Didn't we have something like this come up recently where we decided the board was not in the business of reconfiguring or allowing for lot line changes? I mean, do I recall that, or am I
There was
just?
some discussion. I don't think it was exactly the same, but there was some discussion about
The
that.
way that you're able to do it is through sketch and final plat, so they have to replat it, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, we weren't
That
able
was
to do
where
it by
they-
ourselves. Sorry.
Yeah, may I, Mr. Chairman? What you were recalling is there was a request from individuals in the public for the board to essentially change the legal description on a deed of record as opposed to a subdivision plat. Courts can change legal descriptions through a judicial process. This board only has statutory authority to plat land, and you also have within that the ability to amend that plat. In this case, this is platted land already, so they're
And it's in a
asking, and y'all have
subdivision.
readjusted lot lines and merged lot lines, particularly over the plantation, a little goodness for many, many, many years.
Okay.
But that's the distinction, is one was a deed of record, which y'all, in my opinion, don't have the legal authority to adjust a legal description. That's why they had to go through the minor plat process. I mean, I hate it, I wish there was some other way. I actually got a phone call from the attorney for one of those individuals, because it seemed like there were 2 or 3 of them at one time, and I said, brother, I'm perfectly open to anything you can suggest and show me. I don't want to make anyone's life any more difficult or costly or take more time to do business than is necessary. You know, they didn't have any other thing to bring to me to consider. Because I believe me, I looked. I try to make things easy because making things difficult just makes people mad, so.
And this is in a, Mr. Chairman, sorry,
Yeah, you're
this
good.
is in an already platted subdivision.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
so we have that leeway as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'll move to approve this.
Okay.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve the sketch plat approval by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Amison. Any discussion, Commissioners? Additional to what we've already had? All in
Are we-
favor? Aye.
Question, are we just approving the sketch and final plat?
No, ma'am, we're doing the sketch.
Okay.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. All right, now final plat.
Okay, the final plat application, consideration for a sketch plat
No,
request.
final plat, sorry. Supposed to say final plat.
Okay, consideration of a final plat request to configure 2 lots, 1707 St. George Court, East Point, Florida, Franklin County, Florida. Request submitted by Thurman Roddenberry, agent Gene M. Cassie, and McCormick Young Farms applicant.
So moved.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Croom. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's a 5-0 vote. All right. Anything else, Ms. Courtney?
Elza Peppers from Florida Environmental did have a question.
Okay.
Hi, so I wanted to give the opportunity maybe to discuss, or take the opportunity, hopefully you'll allow me, to discuss the 1567 Alligator Drive. It wasn't, I mean, when you voted to table it, it wasn't open for public comment, so I'm here, and this was the dock, the riprap that Courtney mentioned. There was a violation of the construction on the uplands about. So anyway, I'm here and I would like to kind of explain in a little bit better what's happening out there, if y'all will entertain that.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this project, they had gotten a dock permit and a seawall permit previously. And then they added the riprap, so the application is for the riprap in front of it. So that was what the application for the critical shoreline variance was, or permit was for. But on the upland, they had a, when we initially applied, they had there was an old shed. I don't think they built it, but it was within the setbacks. So in order for this to move forward, they had to move that shed out of the setback. And then they also built like a gazebo structure. And I'm guessing, Courtney, that's what you're talking about, didn't have a permit.
Correct.
Yes. So anyway, I wanted to explain like what is going on. It's not that there are no permits out here, but the riprap, you know, I don't know if your system makes all the permits or corrective actions occur, and I guess that was the question for Mr. Schuler, was what can go forward, and that would be my question.
Yeah, I think that's what led the board to table it today.
Okay.
Because we didn't know for sure what the step would be. So if there, doesn't matter if there's 1 or 10, if there are other structures that are built on the property without a permit.
The whole site
Yeah,
is kind of frozen.
should that be kind of cleared up before we get to the dock permit? That was the question that we really, Attorney Schuler was uncomfortable answering on the fly. So that's what led to it being tabled, I perceive anyway.
All right.
You know.
I wanted just to also explain like what's been done and what permits were gotten from beginning to this point.
Okay.
And I don't know if they have a permit application in to the building department for the gazebo, or they've been notified that they need a permit?
Yeah.
Okay.
The violation goes all the way back to June of 2022.
Okay.
So it sounds like we've have it tabled, so we can try to have some of those questions answered and be ready at our next meeting to actually take action on it.
Okay.
Yes, sir, that is the plan.
Yes,
God willing.
yes, ma'am.
All right.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
No, you're good.
I appreciate an update on that, so I don't have to keep calling Courtney. Yeah, I can leave you a card. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, do y'all want to take a short recess before we come back? and
I'll
talk
recommend
about
a
it?
recess before we open the bids
Yes,
and
yeah.
we go and finish
Let's
up.
do this. Let's take a short recess. Franklin County Commission is now back in session. We're going to the next item on our agenda, which is concerning the old ferry dock boat ramp improvements. Ms. Griffith, turn it over to you.
Yep, Commissioners, today we are opening the construction bids for removing the existing boat ramp and concrete sheet pile wall and replacing them with a steel sheet pile wall, 2 boat ramps, a fixed timber dock, and improvements to the access road at Old Ferry Dock Boat Ramp and East Point. And
Sarah,
this is
I'll ask a question before you
ahead.
proceed. And I should have asked it before now, but I haven't thought about it before now. In these improvements, is that also allowing for what it's gonna take to actually put the boat ramp structure into the water underneath?
Correct.
It's not just
Correct.
the wall stuff, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's a
Thank
full
you.
replacement.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is being funded by an FWC boating improvement grant.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to, I'm sorry,
I
Commissioner.
was just gonna say, while she's opening her Christmas present over there, I know this is your district.
Yes.
But I'm in the seafood business, I'm in the commercial business, and, this is a long time. I'm just glad that we
Yeah.
finally getting somewhere with this.
Oh, this has been
because-
4 or 5 years.
Oh, I know it. That's why I'm stressing that I'm so glad to be opening these packages right now.
Yes.
And you know what's so odd is like I left for 4 years and I come back, and y'all just getting this done. It should have been done 4 years ago.
It ain't up, does it,
I'm
Commissioner?
playing, y'all. I'm
That's-
playing.
Wheels of government.
That's the wheels of government. People don't understand it.
Commissioner Sanders, this is what you were trying to explain to the Alligator Point group about boat ramps, is exactly what you were saying earlier.
Exactly.
The permitting
Well,
process has only gotten slower.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people involved, and that's the way it should
It
be.
is.
I
And it's-
blame it on COVID. That's what everybody else does.
That's what slowed it down.
Excuse no more.
Commissioner Ward, did you have something you were wanting to say?
Mr. Chairman, I was just gonna echo Commissioner Amoson's sentiment. I know this has been ongoing, and you've been sitting on this board for a while, and this is a long time coming, and I know you're excited to be to this
I
point.
know.
Yes,
So,
Glad to see
Thank
it.
congratulations.
thank you. Let's get it built, we'll be good.
That's
Go ahead,
right.
Ms. Aaron.
Okay, Commissioners, the first bid is going to be from Pygott Asphalt and Site Work LLC from 12 Asphalt Way, Crawfordville, Florida. Again, Pygott Asphalt and Site Work LLC. Their total base bid is $1,377,471. Again, $1,377,471, and their bid bond is included. The next one is going to be from Michael L. Anderson Incorporated, doing business as Anderson Marine from Lynn Haven, Florida. Again, Michael L. Anderson Incorporated, doing business as Anderson Marine from Lynn Haven, Florida. Their bid bond is included, and their total base bid is $1,271,590. $1,271,590. Okay, the next bid is from H.G. Harders and Son Incorporated from Panama City, Florida. Again, H.G. Harders and Son Incorporated from Panama City, Florida. Very excited about this, and this is a huge deal for Lanark Village and that district, for sure.
Hang on.
Yes.
At the last meeting, we had discussed the status of the deed of transfer between the city of Carabel and Franklin County. I did look up that deed after the fact. I'm not sure if I sent it to all of you or any of you, but they have in fact recorded that deed about 2 weeks ago, and interestingly, they did not put a reverter provision in it. I mean, the last.
It's ours.
Mm-hmm.
There you
Yeah, well.
Hey, I do business for the city of Carabel.
Anyway.
I do business for the city of
Sorry about the
Carabel.
interruption.
No, that's good, though.
That's
but-
good.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing that's really a positive. So we've been doing our best to get things back up to snuff, especially around the fire department. We were able, through the legislative funding last year, to get money for that truck. And we're looking at potentially getting legislative funding this year to do that EMS substation. It's almost $1 million worth
It is.
of stuff that the legislature helped us with in the last 2 years. So very thankful for that.
I know that, I'm thankful for it too, because it's gonna improve the quality of service out there tremendously.
Yes, it is.
It is, and I'm so happy.
Go ahead, Ms. Aaron.
I'm sorry, can you tell the exact picture where, like in relation to the fire department it is?
Yes, actually, it's a 2-acre parcel directly to the west of the fire department location, so just a little farther down Oak Street. And the EMS will actually have direct access to Highway 98, I believe down Spring Drive.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you look right there, Mr. Chairman, you can see Spring Street coming south.
Yeah.
Yes,
And so it's gonna come right in and out, right there.
good.
I mean, it's gonna be good, because there's an acre lot there between this property and the fire department.
Right.
And we couldn't use it because of, the GO bore and all.
Yep.
But, everything, but this is gonna, it's just gonna be good.
So that shaded area is an area that's just gonna stay like for parking or something, or what is that?
That's actually the retention requirements.
Okay.
Yep,
So everything's just gonna go around, okay.
correct.
And Mr. Chairman, just, Aaron, if you could clarify, this is to the, whereas the current fire department sits, this building is gonna be to the west.
Correct.
Okay. I'm just trying to give perspective to some people that aren't familiar with that area.
Okay. Cool.
What it was, the city of Carabel came up on that land. They've got a lot of land out there now. They have the water, this water district and all that. And this is part of that whole thing. And I tell you what, it's just like Commissioner Ward said, we have got to work with our local community to be able to have what we need to have. All of us need to have to take care of our residents here.
Yep.
I'm just so proud of all this.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Sanders, I wouldn't doubt in your business tag with the city, but this is a no-brainer with them. I mean, this is gonna provide a service.
Eventually.
Yeah. I mean, it's-
Eventually, I see in the
just got
future.
one question just for my curiosity, but everything south of that, is that residential?
Uh-huh, yeah.
But it does seem to have a good line of sight down that road, so when you
Yes.
got emergency vehicles coming in and out,
Yeah.
there won't be any kind of traffic congestion is what I'm getting at.
And that's one block from 98, isn't it? One block north?
Correct.
Yeah.
Good.
Off of Oak Street, it's just north of Oak Street. And, I
That's
just,
good.
they're gonna have a complete shot in and out of there. And the thing about it is, I hope we can get in services enough to where if somebody falls and hurts herself out there, it won't, they're right there, and maybe somebody will be at the EMS office.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make one more note before we move on. We've got a fire department now that has a new truck and now a new facility. So maybe this will attract, they said that they attracted a couple younger folks on the department. Maybe this is initiative, an incentive for other people to want to join that department and add to the growth of that area. It's department to help the citizens.
And it should also help with recruitment of EMTs as well, because you'll actually have our EMTs based in a location that's actually truly, owned by county government instead of a leased location.
Especially with spring break and all this coming and everything, that Alligator Point in that area needs some looking at.
Parking enforcement, yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah, they need, in fact, the sheriff's office was down there, from what I understand, this weekend, and they've been doing pretty good down there. So, but we need to have a presence. I just wanna bring that up. If we're gonna have the extra manpower, we need to just have a presence down there.
And Mr. Chairman, I feel the same way about McKissick and Carabel Beach as well. All beaches.
And we need to put them in a TDC T-shirt, that way.
We could do that.
Advertise at TDC.
Yeah, they are supposed to actually put the TDC decals on the patrol vehicles that they purchase through the TDC funding. So the public should be able to easily identify those officers and the additional personnel that's being funded that way.
Which decal we using?
The newest one.
Yeah, the new one, yeah.
The new one,
Yeah,
not the old
that's
one.
right.
That at the end of
I
the
think
meeting.
that's,
Was that it, Commissioner Sanders? Go ahead, Ms. Aaron.
Okay, next item is item number 5. Upon completion and payoff of the county's most recent beach park facility improvement, the restoration of Carabel Beach Park, The next scheduled improvement, as funded by TDC sales tax proceeds, will be the replacement of the basketball court and the addition of one pickleball court, either one or two contingent upon site size limitations, at Lighthouse Park on St. George Island. County staff requested the attached task order from Dewberry Engineers pursuant to their ongoing services contract with Franklin County to develop the construction bid specifications, perform construction administration and inspection services for the project based on the conceptual site plan and design provided by Franklin County. Board action to approve and authorize the chairman to sign the attached task order for $13,250 to be paid by TDC sales tax proceeds for the development of the construction bid specifications and construction inspection services for the beach park facility improvements mentioned above.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Amison,
Second.
second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Okay, Commissioners, next action item is number 6. The county has just opened the new beach parking lot area between Chitley Boulevard and First Street West on St. George Island. The improvement added approximately 32 designated parking spaces in the commercial district. Unfortunately, with this designated parking, this area is no longer suitable for peddlers parking as the trailers are unable to fit within the confines of a single parking space, and this improvement was completed to maximize the county's limited right-of-way open space available for parking. Peddlers are encouraged to relocate at this time to a vacant parking area located to the east of Chitley Boulevard on the opposing side of Lighthouse Park, noted as Temp in the image pasted below. After reviewing various right-of-way areas within the commercial district, staff would like to request permission to begin design work for a graveled Peddlers Cove area along the right-of-way of Gulf Beach Drive and 2nd Street East. Also requested at this time is formal closure of the new parking area to peddlers along with the busy right-of-way areas of Franklin Boulevard due to traffic and safety concerns caused by high numbers of visitors entering and leaving St. George Island during peak season. The existing peddlers ordinance has been in place since 1997, and at that time, areas marked as parking or park, as noted on the original plat, were closed to peddling, which included the parking areas of Lighthouse Park. Pursuant to the original policy, additional areas can be closed by the board through adoption of a resolution. So I do have 2 action items for you all with this motion. Action item A, board action to move forward with the design concept for a designated Peddlers Cove parking area on St. George Island. And action item B, board action to adopt the attached resolution closing Franklin Boulevard.
Down the U-shaped drive that's right there south of the, is it Park Place? What's the name of that area right there?
Oh goodness, it is.
Something Place, but anyway, it escapes me right now.
Yeah.
But it's right there south of the public beach parking, the bigger parking area, where it's like a U-shaped turn-through area. Well, there's a coastal construction problem. We're too close to the actual shoreline. So we're just trying to find a place to make it happen, because at the end of the day, if you're gonna give peddlers somewhere to be, then they should have somewhere to be. At the end of the day, it's incumbent on this board. I think it's a better solution for the residents of the island and the businesses to not have peddlers just be on any right-of-way. I just think that's a better way to do it. We'll go through the conceptual, it'll have to come back to us, we can have the discussion, but I'm fine with moving forward what we have here.
Yeah, the actual site that, the subject site up there is actually a site too where I didn't feel like it would impact the county negatively as far as for future beach parking access,
Right, no,
because
it
there's
doesn't.
not actually a good public beach access within the line of the shotgun houses either. So.
No, there's not.
It's true.
No, there's not. Any other discussion from the board before we vote? Sir, you dying to talk? Come up here. And this is probably about the last time today, but come on. We're not in public comment, but go ahead.
Just another suggestion. That property that the county owns, where you're leaving the island on the right side, just before you.
We already have other plans for that, but I understand.
Okay. Well,
Yes, sir.
I don't know how quickly those plans
Yes.
would come to fruition, but maybe this could be a temporary place to put them.
Yep. Yes, sir. Thank you. Place is on the other side of the basketball court.
Okay, so it's gonna be on the east end.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Commissioner, as well, that we're not closing any other sections
No, just
besides
that
that
one.
was specific.
Just
We
the-
are
just-
suggesting that they move to the other site for temporary, but there's also the other right-of-way sections of Gulf Beach Drive that are, wide open as well, so we have not shut those down.
this is just a step to see what we can come up with conceptually, is the way I understand it. Is that correct, Ms. Aaron?
That's correct. Yep.
So what's the board's, pleasure of the board as far as item B?
Also move to approve.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the resolution closing the newest paved parking lot that we have there between First Street West and Chile Boulevard to Pedling. We have an approval of that by Commissioner Ward, by motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Sanders. Any more discussion?
And just so the board, everybody's aware, this is not, we're not blocking off ways for them to pedal. This is blocking off the parking area so that we can provide more parking. So again, like Aaron said, it's not, this is just conceptual. This is not set in stone yet. It's just something we're potentially working on.
Now, the concept is, but the resolution closing
The
was
resolution-
particular.
Right,
well, that's what I meant, that's what I meant.
Yeah, but it's
we've
very
already
limited closure,
Agreed
though.
on the
Yeah.
conceptual,
Yeah.
peddlers thing. I'm just getting at, you know, they've been through a winter, and now, you know, and I understand we're moving them to a place, but visitors in the past know where they are. Now that they're coming in, they're gonna, you know, I don't know, I don't wanna put any undue, you know, any undue pressure on them. I mean, we was in here talking about the TDC last week. That was a big argument that, you know, the county doesn't understand the effects that having a slow economy last year versus what they had a few years before. You know, I mean, I'm not gonna go digging all that back up, but I just don't wanna hinder anybody's businesses, as well as getting that on a short notice, but.
Well, it could, well, again, just to clarify, going back, we do have a current motion on the floor and a second. Currently they can park anywhere, except for this area this one area we're saying, no, that's a new parking lot. We're not going to cover up parallel parking by perpendicular parking. But they still are able to use any right-of-way currently. But if we come up with a site, and this other one's just conceptual, but if we come up with a site and a place to locate the peddlers, then we can add appropriate signage.
I'm all
you know
for
what I mean?
that, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I'm
Yeah.
just talking about, you know, we're kinda like the 11th hour with this, and it's spring break, and it's go time for those folks. I mean, they either make it now or they don't make it.
Well, one thing to note as well, though, Commissioner, with actually, you know, with the way Franklin Boulevard is, that's one way on and off St. George Island. So, you know, those crossroads and such, so as you come onto the island, you know, I noticed over the weekend, there was actually cars that were pulled up parking in between and actually talking with the vendors of those food trucks. So it's almost a safety concern, because when on the peak check-in days, you will start seeing cars backed up, actually onto the bridge.
What are you gonna have now? Let's see, you got 24 plus about 26 foot.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a road space there, cause we're doing the 2 lanes and.
Yeah, it'll be
one
nice.
foot on each side.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get that shoulder fixed right there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Anyone else have anything for Ms. Griffith? Come on, y'all, you don't have to let her off light.
I'm gonna have a meeting with her tomorrow, so I'll
There you go. Speaking of, I do want to mention, so I don't forget, just for the board in between the two reports, I'm having a meeting tomorrow as the chair of the ARPC with some of the ARPC staff about additional things that might be able to be done for the East Point spoil area, because the current under the Franklin 98 project, their permit actually allows to go all the way to the boat ramp area. That whole area is under their purview as far as the permit. So they're thinking that if they have any funds left from the Highway 98 project, that there's a couple of options. One, they might can do a change order and try to do something to strengthen the back of that berm so it doesn't continue to blow out, as well as other thoughts that we're gonna work through. But I just want the board to be aware, so if we bring up at a future meeting, you won't be like, well, what are you talking about now? We're gonna have those kind of discussions tomorrow. on behalf of this board.
And just to add to what you're saying, Mr. Chairman, I went by there this morning. Y'all, it ain't gonna be long. That thing's gonna be closed back up again if we don't do something about it, Ricky.
It is.
It's bad in there behind Lynn's and, oh, it's bad.
That's what 38 years of waiting to do it looks like.
And then look at what happened. I mean,
Yeah.
it's bad.
Well, Mr. Butlers was surveying it off yesterday, and we're supposed to take a boat ride tomorrow so he can show me everywhere he's gonna do it. So we'll find out what happens
Well, you
then.
better hope that, you better wait until afternoon because you're gonna have low tides in the morning with this north wind blowing out, so
Do it on low
don't get
tide.
in there and get stuck on that boat.
You won't get stuck dredging. If you get stuck dredging, you got a problem.
I'm teasing you, you know it.
All right, Mr. Morone, we're to you, sir.
All right, sir. Page 14, item number 1, at your last meeting, the board discussed the possibility of entering. There's a steep curve that creates a dangerous driving condition. The pole on that corner already has a transformer, therefore there's no installation cost. Michael Ward from Duke Energy confirmed that. So the only cost is the reoccurring monthly $6.61 fee. Board action to proceed with that project.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Anderson and Commissioner Crew, I believe. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Attached to your report, item 3, Commissioners, is a letter of support to Triumph Gulf Coast Board. It's on behalf of Visit Florida and Northwest Florida Beaches for the Adventure Within Reach grant application. Mr. Solomon, he serves as a member of Visit Florida, asked for your support and stated other counties are submitting similar letters of support. Board action to allow the chairman to sign that letter of support on behalf of Visit Florida and North Florida Beaches.
So move.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward,
Second.
second by Commissioner.
The whole compromising of the board and the members and where they come from, I'm okay with. However, I do want to state that, you know, I know that we have a limited amount of seats, but where's Alligator Point and Lanark in that equation? I know a lot of people say, well, they're not bringing in the money like the island is, and I get that, but it was brought to my attention that Alligator Point and Lanark have Airbnbs and VRBOs, and
Make sure the board's aware of and clear. Just as with any advisory boards, they can advise us on what they approve, but this board actually approves.
It's an ultimate thing, I
Yes.
know.
Yeah, they make recommendations, you know, and we make.
I
them
would
approve.
still like them to make recommendations.
Okay.
You know what
We
I'm
wouldn't talk
saying?
about bypassing that.
I like for any of our boards to make
Yeah.
recommendations.
Yeah.
Because if they don't have that duty to do, then why are they sitting there? You know, if that's not one of the things that's part of their duties, like the airport board and all that. They know more, some of those folks on that TDC know more about, and let me clarify something.
To the mayor and say, hey, the Board of County Commissioners have a little concern. We consider this a conflict, but do as you may with our comments, and you let it go there.
Yeah.
I don't think you have the authority to tell the mayor what designee to
Right.
put there. And I want to
Yeah.
make that clear in the way this is written up in case it's
Well,
not.
and it's like Carabelle. Carabelle has always had the mayor
Yes.
sitting in that seat.
Yes.
The mayor always sat in that seat. Now, Apalachicola has done something in the recent months that's a little bit different than what they've always done, so that makes a
But
difference.
that does have to be, either the mayor or one of the commissioners.
Yes.
It has to come from a.
It has to be somebody from
elected
sitting on
official.
that, on the commission. That's correct,
Her
sir.
his designee,
Yeah, designee.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Attorney Schuler's making some faces over there.
Do you have something to add, Attorney
I
Schuler?
do. Clarification.
Yes, sir.
The statute expressly says 9 TDC members appointed by the county commission.
Yes.
What this board has always done the last 20 years is allow the 2 cities permissibly to appoint their designees. Technically, you can require them to come back to you. They require your approval, but that's just not the way it's been done for decades. I mean,
Right.
from inception, y'all have granted to the 2 cities the ability, with your permission, to select who they want. But technically, that's not what the statute
well,
says.
thank you for that.
9 members appointed by the county commission, 2 of which shall be from the cities. But
Well,
I'm not suggesting you
And we don't
change
have
what
no
you've been
statute.
doing,
That's what I-
but when I hear
That's closed
legal
statute.
statements I don't necessarily agree with, I just wanted to clarify.
if
But
the-
you're perfectly entitled to keep doing what you've been doing.
If the
But
board,
and that's what I'm talking about, y'all, because in the Florida statutes, it states that there shall be someone there that collects the tax.
3, no more than 4.
Yeah, yeah, and you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, I mean, we've got to be very, very careful about this, that we stay within the guidelines of that Florida
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
statute.
Yep.
Yes.
That's why we got Mr. Sheeler there.
So, yeah, he won't let me get in trouble. That's one thing I
Well, he
have to
caught
say.
you on that too.
Yes, he
so.
did. But let me ask now,
Now,
so
Mr.
item,
Sanders, what's the first thing you taught me years ago?
always protect the board
Protect the board at all costs.
at all costs.
There you go.
Yes, I even wake up saying that.
It's
So,
good.
item number 4, the sub-item number 4, instead of saying that, I could change that whole last part of the sentence saying that designee will be forwarded to the BOCC for review and approval instead of review and comments. Would you like me to do that? Or will you continue to extend the courtesy you've extended to both cities to allow the mayor to determine who that designee is?
The attorney's fidgeting, so.
Let's just make sure you're clear. You can continue as a board to do what you've been doing for decades, which is essentially, it's sort of similar to the delegation that the board gives for the chairman to declare states of emergency. I mean, it's not exactly the same, but it's essentially you are with the authority of the county commission, allowing the 2 cities to select their designees or representatives on the TDC. You've been doing it for decades, and you can continue to do that. If you want to change it, you can change it and require them to come before you and, receive a formal approval. I mean, that's you have both those options.
Well, Mr. Chairman, the problem with that is who are we to say if, say, the mayor of Carabel submits a designee, no, you can't have that person. There's only so many to choose from if they have to be on the board.
And that's why y'all
you know?
allowed the delegation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think
my
it
only
still
point
needs
is, I'm
to
not
stay
saying you
that
should
way.
change it, but you're not bound by statute to allow them to do that without your approval.
Thank you. Didn't know that.
Uh,
Learn something new every day.
So I'll say this, going on what we're trying to improve on, yes, Commissioner Sanders, we are not trying to say that we are in any way doing away with the statute.
Oh, I
You're gonna
know.
have 9 members, 1 board, 1 county, 2 municipalities.
Designate the old FSU Marina as surplus property, which gives us a better chance of owning that. So the chairman is in the process of scheduling a meeting with the county's lobbyists, as you talked about, Commissioner Ward, for guidance on both of the ideas that we discussed at the last meeting. Just want to give you an update as to where we are with that.
Okay. Oh, can I make a comment, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
Not everybody's happy with our suggestion of FSU Marine, the old FSU Marine Lab down there. But it's like I try to tell them, we won't know until we find out. We won't know until we ask questions and we find out. There may be a thing that we cannot get it, but you won't know until you find out.
Well, furthermore, Mr. Chairman, there's
Huh?
You need to know what your options are.
right,
Yeah.
and their options are limited. The options are
Ain't many
limited.
options down there, that's the thing.
Yeah,
The
Commissioner
thing
Ward.
about it is, we need as much information on it, the
Yeah.
options that we
Yeah.
have. Proximity of, the FWC's wildlife management area, it might have been them. At the time, we didn't know, but it turned out to be fertilizer. We were thinking it might be pesticides, something like that. Well, FWC reached back out to me and said it was Department of Agriculture's thing, so in the meantime, Mr. Barber had reached out to DEP. DEP had contacted me, and they had already reached out to Department of Agriculture, who also contacted me. That would have been Thursday, the day past what I originally was talking about. But anyway, I was waiting to hear back from those 2 departments on that Friday, so I never heard. I reached back out to the Department of Agriculture, and she informed me that they do not regulate fertilizer. They're just in charge of the pesticide, herbicide. That's what they regulate. And she didn't know what department within the state dealt with fertilization. Now, I reached back out, I think his name is Mark. Jenna, could you just give me, is that with the DEP? Yeah, okay. I reached back out to him, or he reached back out to me, excuse me. And he said that he was going to try to figure out who within the state actually, I guess regulates fertilization or whatnot. In the meantime, you know me, I reached out to Ms. Harper and asked her if there was any way we could just potentially do some water quality samples in the area, and they are accommodating that. And So Ms. Harper asked me if I would reach out to Deseret and see if we could figure out what they were applying, what the type of application was, and so forth. So I sent them an email, and they did respond Friday of last week. I was out of town, and I didn't get the email, but I did get the email yesterday, and it's attached to your thing, which basically says that thank you for, I'm just gonna read a part of it, and then that'll give you a good idea where this goes. Thanks for reaching out regarding our pine tree fertilization program. As it relates to the type of fertilizer we are using, that is proprietary information that we do not share. So basically, they just said, we ain't gotta tell you anything. And I mean, that's the way I took it, and I'm one of 5, but, and one of a whole community, but that's basically what they said. Also, it says in there that they abide by buffers and whatnot, and I may just be an old Franklin County guy, but I didn't see very much of a buffer between. Is the beach considered a buffer? Because if they're coming down the coastline, that's not very big buffer zone. I think that's a big ask. But that's me. But anyway, that's my report.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Your story.
Don't make no sense. Why would they not tell you? If it's 888, 888 is 888. You know, or something. It's probably that stuff that, like St. Joe and Buckeye used to own.
Now what this is it's a granulated.
Yeah.
We do know that.
Yeah.
But with the amount of water that we had running off, you can bet if it's granulated on top, it's right there in the base. So.
Well, you know, and
it may be perfectly safe, but
well,
I would like to know.
We won't know. But the thing about it is, and we all are aware that we have an ordinance on herbicides. So it would not be beyond this board, Mr. Chairman, if we just sent a complimentary letter written by Michael Marone or Michael Schuler too, just to let them be aware of what we have in Franklin County as far as herbicides and different things like that. And we want to work with them, but we want to also know what they're putting in from the sky down there. Because we got, there's a lot of land, because it takes hell for us when they do it. They don't mind telling you what they're putting on the trees, so.
Takes out Duke Energy, they'll tell you exactly what it is.
So, I mean, I just write them a letter from the board.
I'll just respond to the email and attach the.
Oh, you did?
No, I will, if that's what you want me to do.
We wanna make sure we get him to get with us on that.
Yes, yes.
And I think that's it. That's all I have for you so far.
Mr. Roan, where we at, question, where are we at on the, we discussed it today publicly, on the, talking with some of the consultants for.
Hopefully I have, by the next meeting, I have them, scheduled, interviews, find out from them also when they are free.
Okay.
Now let me add, I'm sorry, glad you brought it up. My question is, do you want so tell me how you want it. Do you want a separate workshop and have all, there are 3 recommended by Ms. Mayhew? So that's the 3 I'm gonna contact.
Okay.
Do you want
version at the time or words to that effect? So I should be able to bring this back to y'all at the next meeting with sort of an update on where we are on those hospital bylaw updates for your consideration.
Okay. Is that sufficient?
That's fine.
Okay.
While we're on the subject matter, another email chain that I got from the hospital is for some reason they felt the need to change the organizational chart and showed the county commission at the top of the organization. I don't understand particularly why.
Top, bottom, and both sides.
I mean, but anyway, they've done that. But maybe everybody sort of, anyway.
Mr. Rowan, I do have something I want to give to you. I just received, I haven't even read it, but I want to make sure you scan it and send it to all the commissioners. It's from DEP, but it's about a survey they've been doing for the last little bit, some of the resulting documentation on the Gulf Intercoastal Waterway.
They think money, and I get that. In a court of law, it does take a lot of money, but I'm tired of them getting away with crap. Sorry, I'm sick of it, and I've been angry about it. I've lost sleep over it, And I can't sit here and sit well with it anymore. I can't do it. I just can't do it. Sorry.
I got a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Now, didn't we say we were gonna get Dewberry to go back and?
Yep, we asked for something, we've
Yeah.
never got it.
We hadn't got anything on that yet.
No, but that's something else I'm also gonna discuss with the ARPC tomorrow.
Mhm.
Because since that permitted area they're using for that Franklin 98 project goes all the way to the boat ramp, they might could actually perform that survey as part of what they're doing.
Okay,
For
that'd be
East
great.
Point anyway.
But the reason I'm saying is because, you know, looking at the aerials that we had that day, and the contract that Corps had, I mean, they did their job outside of that little bit down there around Barbers. Now, I'm not saying that it was, you know, really, I think it's something that it was called, you know, that probably could have asked a little more, maybe dug a little deeper earlier on, but that's what I'm getting at. You gotta be careful there, because if we get somebody that circles back around and says, okay, as per the permit and the contract, you know, they met their obligation, you really don't have a leg to stand on. And you know, I'm on your side with it. I'm not just.
We already had this permit. But we went through 4 years, almost 5 years. I firmly believe, and I could be wrong, but I'm gonna state it because we're here publicly, that they never perceived that we were actually gonna be able to do the project.
We had the money.
So they gave us sideways calculations and inadequate figures because, I'm sorry, they're the Corps of Engineers. They're the ones that spent $1 million surveying that channel area to say how much spoil they were gonna have. From there, they said that was gonna create a 20-acre island that is not an island. We had to wait an additional 8 months because they didn't know if they had to have a bird watcher, okay, for bird season, nesting season, because of the old causeway that's there that obstructs oyster flow, but we'll talk about that another time. Then we waited another 8 or 9 months for a planting plan. They told us they needed 5,000 plants. Now they need 50,000. So it's not all been perfect. But here's the thing. If I've learned anything in this process, dredging's not science. Because, look, you can go and dredge all you want to. You can make it 20 foot deep if you want to. But you can't stop stuff from collapsing on the sides after you do. You just can't do it. And if you're starting in something that's only 2 foot deep to begin with, and you dig it 6 or 8 foot deep, it's gonna fill back in. That's just the way it works. That's why it's incumbent upon us to get to a place of doing our best to make this livable, doable, and coming up with a plan that we're gonna fund either through what we do with grants, what we do with TDC, what we do with ad valorem, or a combination. Do we have any additional commissioner comments before we recess?
I just wanted to, go ahead, Commissioner Crew.
Mr. Morone.
Sir.
Like this evening, the workshop with,
Seaside, the
Seaside.
seaside, yes.
Is there any way that we can get, or moving forward, like presentation in advance?
Well, yes. So we're supposed to get
It's like
presentations.
last time, like
Thursday,
the
yes.
landings, that was a bunch of
Yes.
information to digest.
Yes.
Right before the workshop.
Yes. So usually that's what we do. When you get your agenda on Thursday, no later than Friday, I usually try to have, in the past, you know,